You are listening to a Dynamicworksproductions podcast. This show is available on iTunes, Stitcher Radio Network, and many, many more podcast services around the world. You can find all our content, music, videos, books, podcasts, and more on our website, www.dynamicworksproductions.com. Have questions, comments, or concerns for us? Head on over to the social tab on www.dynamicworksproductions.com if you'd like to talk to us. Now, on with the show.
Welcome. Come in, close the door, sit down, have a seat. This is the first Fork in Your Ear podcast of 2025, and I've been gone a while. So for those who want the lowdown, we'll see if I'm willing to share when we hit on life, is what I'll say about that.
It might be a multi-episode thing.
There's enough content for like 6 episodes, I think. There's been a lot that has been happening in my personal life, and we'll leave it at that. I am joined by my lovely father of the year, irritated Nate Fu,
Hi.
whose daughter just naked army crawled out of his podcasting room because why not?
And then closed the door with her mouth.
Forward to that in outtakes, folks. Oh my gosh. It's been a while. It's been a while since I have sat in front of a mic.
Or in front of a Nate.
Or in front of a Nate, yeah. No, we've had a couple of calls. Not too many, though. Less than perhaps even would be normal. As he takes a swig from his still Christmas-themed Starbucks cup. While I drank from my also Starbucks cup, though of the plastic variety. So I guess the really only thing left is to spin the ring and find out whether it's going to be a sad and depressing podcast right off the rip, or if we'll get to talk about some fun stuff.
Sad and depressing.
No, we have actually landed on video games for once.
Oh.
2025 kicking off correctly. There's the air there to say that I'm not
Nice.
cheating. I had to look at what it was because I couldn't remember.
Not that it would matter if you were cheating or not. And you were just like, no, we're not talking about life now. We're talking about video games.
Yeah, I got to scroll back. So much stuff has happened in video games.
I've actually been playing
so
some,
much.
which is not.
I've been playing a lot, especially during my Christmas break, and then playing things that perhaps I would not normally play for long durations due to me not being at home.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the last thing here?
November what?
November 18th, where the Game Award nominee announcement happened. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, November 21st. I'm just seeing.
I mean, let's just hit the one topic right out of the gate.
Okay.
So should DLC be considered for a Game of the Year nomination on its own?
DLC and/or expansions, and once the industry actually makes a determination on the verbiage between remake and remaster,
Oh God,
um,
that's not going to happen.
right, but like I think that's also included. Is a big fat resounding no,
Yeah.
right? Anything, well, and see, here's this where the verbiage on remake remaster comes in. Anything that requires you to own another product
Mm.
to play the iteration of what you're playing now should not be nominated, right?
So I take umbrage with that because of the way Sony handles some of their quote unquote remasters. So
Right.
the biggest case in point of the most recent, which is The Last of Us Part 2 remastered, which is not the same as The Last of Us Remastered, which came out on PS4. It is indeed an actual remastering of The Last of Us Part 2.
Right.
But those who own the original, you can get it for like $15.
Right, but it doesn't require you to, and it's an entirely new
But
game.
here's my distinction.
Okay.
It's not an entirely new game. If you own it, you can buy it the newer version for $15. But if you don't own it, that's $70. So this is why I take umbrage with the distinction.
I mean, but that has nothing to do with the game. The game doesn't change other than the price if you own the previous version.
But taking your own words of, does it require you to have another product? It
Right.
requires you to have another product to get it cheaply.
But it doesn't require you to get it. Like, I can't play Diablo
Yeah.
Vessels of Hatred without owning Diablo. There is just no way to do that,
That's true.
right?
Anyways, I think where I
So-
land on the distinction for Game Awards is why the fuck
Mm.
is best DLC or best expansion not its own category?
Right.
What, like, who's stopping you from adding an important category like that? And honestly, in this industry with so much DLC and free to play and content updates and stuff like that, like, why isn't that its own thing?
And and that
You know?
I've heard that question posed over and over and over and
Like,
over
why?
again.
Like, why? Good content should be celebrated, but is it a whole new game? No.
I think the answer to that is prior to, and I mean this in the most and least respectful way possible. During the lazy development period that followed COVID, where they were
Mhm.
just trying to crank out product, we didn't have the sheer volume of DLC remake remaster content that would justify its own category. But
Sure, maybe.
right, but we've kicked that door open, and that makes perfect sense now that it should have its own category.
And then where I further get odd about it, and I don't have an answer for this one right away,
Mhm.
is if you go down that road and you make your own category for DLC and expansions, then the question becomes, okay, do things that fit into that hypothetical category for hypothetical 2025 Video Game Awards,
Mhm.
do you split it between paid and not paid? And the reason I bring that up is,
No.
okay, let's take Elden Ring this year. A huge expansion. It was $45, worth every single penny and then some. Absolutely massive. 60% the size of the main game. Obscene.
I mean, is what you paid for all the expansions for No
Paid.
Man's Sky worth it?
But that's my point.
Right.
And that's exactly where I was going.
Right.
There's never been paid DLC for No Man's Sky.
Right.
Like,
But they are the
And-
exception, not the rule.
agreed. But there's expansion after expansion after expansion, and they're huge expansions for No Man's Sky.
Sure. And to that, I'll just push back and say really plainly, why does the price of something qualify or disqualify it? That's consumer choice, right?
My point on that is I don't have a determination on that
Right.
for a hypothetical change to the Game Awards for should DLC be considered for Game of the Year? I don't think it should be considered for Game of the Year. I think it should be considered for best DLC or expansion.
Right.
I feel
'Cause-
within any given year, there's going to be something that's maybe reasonably priced, maybe high priced for DLC, and there's going to be an expansion to something.
But we already have a precedent for that, because at no point in time was Fortnite ever disqualified for Game of the Year when it came out.
True.
Marvel Rivals also free, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're in consideration for Game of the Year. So again, the price tag is irrelevant. That is a consumer choice
Okay.
that shouldn't eliminate something that, the developers are developing the thing regardless of what the distributor is going to charge for it.
Yeah.
So it's the quality of the work. And again, like, we get back to the remake remaster, like, everyone, was like, Final Fantasy VII then wouldn't qualify. No, that's an entirely new game. Right? It wasn't a reskin. It wasn't Master Chief Collection.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's move on, because there's a lot of stuff to talk about on stuff. I just wanted to throw my bone into that dog and pony race.
Yeah, and I mean, like,
Why?
fetching over who won and who didn't and all this, like, I kind of have a little, spur in my side that Astrobot won Game of the Year. Not saying it's not a game, it's not worthy of it. Just the exclusivity of it.
Yeah, I
Right.
mean, historically at the Video Game Awards, hosted by Geoff Keighley, or owned by Geoff Keighley, whichever way you want to look at it, historically he has been very favorable to single-player exclusive experiences.
Mhm.
And I don't think that should be a disqualification
Well, I
from
don't mean the player. I mean the
Game of the
console.
Year.
Right?
What do you mean?
Astrobot, it's PlayStation 5 only, right?
Okay. But things like Final Fantasy VII Remake, God of War, those were all PlayStation 5 onlys. Last of Us's, those have all been PlayStation only until the last couple of years. So I don't think that should be discluded from a Game of the Year discussion.
But I think it should be considered.
I don't agree with that.
Okay.
I don't agree with that. I feel like if, let's say, for example, the rumors that have been circulating around that Valve is going to fucking throw Half-Life 3 to us this year. Like, if Half-Life 3 comes out, it's going to be on PC. It's not going to be on Mac. I will have to figure out how to get my GPU working again so that I can play what will most assuredly be an entertaining experience, even though I didn't do the same for Half-Life Alyx, which I would love to play and people want me to play, but I don't have a PC VR rig. So, tomato, tomato. So I feel like if that were to be announced this year and it is the Game of the Year, like, okay, it's exclusive to PC, that precludes me from playing it.
I guess that's true.
So I don't think it should be disqualified on those grounds.
Okay.
Because I'm a firm believer of, if the game is so good that you have to go get essentially specialized or specific hardware to play it, then you should go get that hardware. Because it was the same way growing up in the 90s. Like, I wanted to play Sonic Adventure. Oh, shit. I need a Dreamcast.
Right.
Oh, I want to play Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. I need an N64. Like, it's the same thing. I wanted to play Pokemon. I sold my Game Gear, regrettably, to get a Game Boy so I could play Pokemon.
Fair.
Like,
Okay.
I'm just saying, that's old gamer here. Like, that's
No, you're
the
right.
way it is.
And because also old gamer, I will concede. That
Exactly.
is fair. But yeah, it's just I guess it's a numbers game at this point. Like, the volume of gamers that are out there, and then when you have something that is specifically tied like that, like Astrobot is, and it's like, how do you get Game of the Year when you're only speaking to maybe a fifth of the population? That's where that argument comes from. But yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah, I mean, obviously,
And again, it earned its accolades. I've been watching people play it, and I go, this is for what was a pack-in to show off a feature set of a controller.
that's not what it is.
No, the original Astrobot
Yes.
was a
Well,
pack-in.
that's not what it was either. So the history of Astrobot's weird. So there was an Astro Playroom VR disc
Mhm.
that came with the PlayStation VR. and it was like a quick little couple-hour game, and it was cute. Not exactly a full game. Then there's the pack-in game with the PS5, which was, 20, 30 hours, and it was a very good game. And this is the sequel, I guess,
Right.
to that pack-in that is very much a full $70 experience.
Right.
And
Like
by
Astrobot has shed its skin of, we're going to use this character to show off features. Like if nothing else, if you want to figure out how because developers weren't coming out the gate making the haptic feedback on the controller,
correct.
right? So it's like,
Yeah.
how do you sell this thing if you don't have something to give? Same thing with the VR. It's like,
Yeah, and honestly, in regards to showing it off and showing developers what you can do with it is interesting, because every time there's been a rumble or a haptic change in controllers, there's always been like an optional component to it that doesn't utilize the hardware to the fullest. Case in point,
Right.
Nintendo 64. Oh, you had to buy an extra pack.
Mhm.
Not all games have that. That followed suit with Dreamcast. Xbox introduced two motors, high pitched and a low pitched, which they did use. But then Xbox was actually the first to go 4 motors with the 2 tiny ones and the triggers, and fucking nobody uses the goddamn triggers except for Halo and Forza,
Mhm.
much to my chagrin. And technically, Nintendo was the first to introduce linear oscillating haptics in the Switch over Sony, and nobody uses that correctly except for Nintendo, even though there's a handful of cases where they are
Right.
used to their fullest.
Right.
And then Sony went with their God, I'm forgetting the technical verbiage for it. Low frequency sound. There's a name for it.
Right.
I forget what it's called.
We like to call it sonic fuckery.
Yeah, sure. Which is what it is. But especially because of the way the games I've been playing. So I've been playing all manner of games and sometimes the same game on multiple different controllers as of late. And the differences between them is weird, to say the least.
Right.
So for example, I was playing Death Stranding on my iPhone in a Les Schwab in Spokane for like 6 hours on a Nintendo Switch Pro controller. And that's an experience. I will say, obviously, probably because it's Kojima, not anybody else, that they do use the haptics on that greatly, but not as good as when you hook it up with a PlayStation controller. So yeah, it does depend. To pivot slightly, because it was news, the PlayStation Portal Remote Player has evolved since November 19th.
So it finally became what it should have been out the gate.
Correct. Though in beta, which sure
Doesn't matter. I'm fine with it. This was good. Thank you, PlayStation,
Yeah.
for actually getting your head out of your ass and going, this is not what people want to use that device for.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, you can't argue with their sales of it. Whether it was because people are dumb or not remains to be seen. But they rolled an update out that allows PlayStation Plus Premium members to have access to test cloud streaming beta for select PS5 games on the game catalog service, so that you no longer actually need your PS5 to run this fucking thing. At least for a handful of games.
Right. Now, do you need a PS5 at all? Or can you just have, can I buy a Portal and a PlayStation account?
Yeah, you can buy a PlayStation account. I don't know if you can do it on the Portal. I know you can do it through your web browser.
Sure.
But yeah, no, this is definitely what it should have been out the gate.
Sony, one step closer to, this is a PlayStation. This is a PlayStation. This is a PlayStation.
Do we want to talk about that for a split second?
I mean, sure.
Yeah.
segue of the year there.
Yeah.
Xbox and their finally, again, admitting to the public what we already knew was true is that they're less concerned about console hardware and more concerned about selling you entertainment.
Well, and through game streaming.
Right. Through game streaming or, some iteration of like, again, Game Pass Ultimate, uh, PC games, console games, and streaming. So again, they've become a distribution platform to whatever piece of hardware you have, however they want to do it, if it's streaming or if it even, again, local play, in
Yeah.
the case of PC. So, but yeah, the
Mhm.
commercial was like, yeah, this is again, we all kind of knew this is where it was going. It was finally nice for them to just go, yeah, that's kind of our plan. Because have you even heard about rumors of the next gen Xbox console?
Oh yeah,
Because
absolutely.
I haven't.
I've heard the most rumors about the portable.
Okay,
That also was basically stated that they are working on it this past summer with interviews with Phil Spencer.
but is
And
the
according to
portable going to be like the PS Portal, where it's just a
no,
okay,
it's going to be a portable Xbox Series S.
okay,
That's what everything's pointing to with that one.
okay. I guess if you want something that can't play next gen games already out of the box.
But it can play everything out of the box, Nate. This hypothetical machine that we don't know actually exists.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Why do you keep shaking your head?
we'll see. I don't have a lot of faith in Xbox at the moment, and you know me, I'm Team Green.
No, I am also Team Green, and this year's been hard as an Xbox guy
Mhm.
for sure. Notwithstanding their maybe one of the best press conferences ever that happened earlier this year for games. Um, yeah, I mean, I guess speaking of crazy shit, um, so there's a whole thing that happened in November that we'll go over briefly because it's now resolved itself. Where From Software parent company Kadokawa, Sony sent them a letter of intent to purchase them entirely, which then turned out to be not entirely true. Sony literally just wanted to buy FromSoft off of Kadokawa, which Kadokawa said, "Nope. If you want us, you want the whole thing."
I love
And
how
then
you
Sony
say
went
that so perfectly. Arakawa.
Kadokawa.
You say arigato, like we say arigato.
Jesus Christ, ladies and gentlemen, the white Californian. Um, uh,
Oh, you don't know Kill
yeah,
Bill? You should know Kill Bill.
no, no, I know Kill Bill. I haven't seen it since I watched it on DVD. Non widescreen, the quote unquote full screen version. Remember when we had DVDs that had the widescreen and the full screen version? Ah, yes, those are the days. Anyways, that was a whole thing. Kadokawa said, no, you got to buy the whole thing. Then Sony said, hang on, we don't have that kind of money. Let us see if we can get the money. And then they're like, hey, we can't actually get the money. But since we're already an investor, why don't we just invest more money? And then so now we have controlling shares of Kadokawa. Kadokawa's like, yeah, okay.
Good enough for me.
So I think they have like 80% share or something of Kadokawa now. Which basically means A, you're not going to see from soft exclusives, most likely, unless they do another Bloodborne, which may or may not be in the works according to rumors, since it seems like FromSoft just, Jesus, they're just cranking out games like nobody's business. Which I will get into in a minute with the stuff that was announced at the Game Awards. But basically, Kadokawa will stay Kadokawa. Sony has a much larger hand in saying, we go this direction now with the company. But as people who don't know Kadokawa, they own a shitload of anime and manga properties.
Right.
A
And
shitload would be an understatement.
as Dame
In-
said in the
in-
Discord, this is the Bungie that they should have gotten.
I disagree with that statement. This is the Japanese equivalent of Activision for Sony.
Right. But yeah, like this is the company
what I'll say.
you acquire and you guide, but you still kind of let them do their own thing, not how they've done with like Bungie was just too small of a fish, I guess.
Except they let Bungie do their own thing, and Bungie didn't.
Right.
Doesn't matter. Bungie's been fucking carved to pieces anyway.
Yep.
So anyway, that's what's going on with Kadokawa in 2025. No Man's Sky, out of the blue, was just like, hey, y'all want cross save?
Mhm.
To which is something I've been beating my hand on the drum for a long time. They said it'll be beta, but it's available. It's available on all platforms.
Nice.
And I'm like, damn, all platforms, classy move. Except, I've seen videos of people who have the cross save and it works beautifully. Mine does not work. And I've checked at least a couple of times a week since they announced this, especially because I've been traveling a lot. And basically, the gist is there's now a No Man's Sky account that you basically just sign into with whichever gaming ID you use, and you link it to your Hello Games account.
Right. Like
Like
Ubisoft, like Epic,
like every cross, except this one was really painless.
Right.
Like it was really just no nonsense, no fucking with you. No, here, sign this, read this, accept this fucking thing, scroll to the bottom, read this, click this check mark. You know, like an EA or Ubisoft would have you do. It was just like, hey, sign in to your account that you play No Man's Sky with. Cool, you're signed in now.
Right.
Would you like to add other accounts? It's like, yes. So I linked all my things to that. And the way that it works for No Man's Sky people out there is basically there's now a new slot below your saves that says cross save. And you can keep up to, I believe it's 3 cross saves between any platforms.
Nice. Okay. So
cloud
like in your case where you have a Switch account.
I literally have 3.
Yeah.
Yes. So the thing that's unclear, and nobody really knows the answer to this, is okay, so are these, because the way that it's set up is a little funky. So No Man's Sky takes place in a procedurally generated galaxy across universes. But the Switch universe is like its own silo.
Right. So Planet 2859 on your Switch is not Planet 2859 on Xbox.
Correct. Whereas the PC, Xbox, PlayStation silo, they're all together.
Right.
And so it was somewhat confusing as to, and then the Mac people are in their own silo for some reason.
Yeah.
But the Mac people can also play with PC people. So I don't know exactly how that works. Exactly. So the question that I had was like, okay, so you can cross save, but are you crossing? So let's say I load up my Nintendo Switch save on Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
Am I in the Nintendo Switch universe only? Like, how does that work exactly?
Right.
And the thing is, I can't test for myself to tell you how exactly it works because
it's not working for you.
And they said, so basically, it's in beta, and basically you join a queue to get slotted into their beta program, and then once you're in, you're in. But if you're not in, you're out. And I am out.
Okay. So just the sheer thought about that you have a queue system that you have to get into says the cross-save world is its own iteration.
Maybe. I think the thing is, it's in beta, and
maybe that's what they're working out with that.
I think probably what they did with beta, and obviously we don't really know because No Man's Sky people don't talk about what they do anymore. They just do it, and it's been their modus operandi for years now. But what I think
is my big brain on this. Okay,
go for it.
Because it's procedurally generated in infinite possibilities, what do you think is the probability of two separate planets from two different iterations being at the exact same geographical coordinates?
Um,
Probably infinitesimal,
probably,
right?
probably. Or
So,
since things are generated from seeds,
mhm,
probable. But I also don't see how they couldn't. And that's totally pie in the sky. I'm not a developer, and certainly not on something as massively complex as No Man's Sky.
mhm,
Why wouldn't you just do like a dash A or something,
okay.
or just a dash N for Nintendo Planets, dash S for Sony Planets,
Sh-
etc.
Sure, but I mean, as far as putting them all in the same universe, it's like, oh, okay, you have this planet, you've discovered these planets, we'll just drop them into the new, whatever the
Well,
combined.
correct. Like, why not add another planet to someone's solar system?
Mhm,
Uh, my counterpoint to that is they've regenerated the universes a handful of times already
mhm,
since the game's out. And sure, they haven't done it in 3 or 4 years. Um, but that's not stopped them before
right.
necessarily. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. My theory is it's beta because they wanted to see how many people wanted to use it. And like everything, they underestimated their audience. And we're like, okay, cool. Well, we'll get back to you in the next update with the full version and all that sort of stuff. Or maybe they wanted to see how people reacted to it. Like this was their idea of how cross save works,
Mhm,
and maybe not. Because so for me personally, what I would have wanted, I love cross save. That's a great idea.
mhm,
I love it. However, I have three saves that have an inordinate amount of time on. Is it possible? I don't know. Would I like it if I could just merge
right.
those three somehow? Absolutely. Don't know if that's possible, but
I think as a
they've
general rule, if
done
you
the
make a
impossible
yeah, if you make a
so
game
many
that is
times.
cross-platform, or sorry, if you make a game that is available on multiple platforms, cross-platform, cross-progression should be in your development plan from day one.
Yeah. And I don't know, maybe that'll be the half that'll be coming. I don't know. Would be great to see.
Mhm,
Or at the very least, what would, because I've done this and I've told everybody in our audience that I've done this, where oh my Xbox is going in the shop. Well, let me just get into an online lobby with myself on PlayStation,
right.
and I will send myself every fucking thing that I possibly can. Um, and vice versa, you know. Uh, another solution would be to have a cross save inventory device, make it a thing you build, a high technology build or something in the
Right.
game, and be like, hey, whatever goes in this vault can be accessed through the different platforms. Seems simple enough to me since it's a feature that kind of already exists.
Sure.
Um, the big thing though with the beta cross save that is a big deal, and they did talk about it a little bit, is that it does work with Switch, which is definitely the lowest man on the totem in terms of hardware. And they said, yes, you won't see, because one of the two things that the Switch version locks you out of is base building limit sizes, obviously due to memory.
Mhm,
Um, they don't run the settlements, which is a feature of one of the expansions a while back, and they don't have online. And they've stated the online is because can't doesn't have the memory for it, and then the same for the settlements, as there's a bunch of AI villagers running around, and it's not really a thing. Um, but in their cross save, they were specific to note. They're like, yes, even your giant bases you've made on PC and Xbox will cross save to Nintendo Switch. They said, we figured it out.
because
So
of
I was
course
like,
they
huh,
did.
interesting. Yeah, of course they did. Like, that's the other thing with these guys. It's like, dudes, they are on a whole ass other level than every other developer. And it's funny, and I mentioned this a couple of times. One of the senior engine designers, uh, who in the last year or so has been publicly stating things about everything he's working on, from like, hey, I'm working on the PS5 Pro version of this. This is why we did this. Oh, this was my fuck up from 2 years ago. I finally fixed it. Like, it's really cool. The thing that I get from that is he looks at everything as, no matter how large the challenge is, like, ooh, how do I code to make that thing
Mhm.
that's impossible? And he like goes after it. So I also kind of get the sense that in that sense, if you're part of the No Man's Sky team, this might kind of be like a dream job of like you're just coding to fix problems and things that are like interesting to you as a person.
Right.
So anyway, enough about that. Moving on to the other procedurally generated space game, Astroneer. I believe the DLC had just come out and I was having issues with it. So the long and short of that is I had every issue under the fucking possible sun with the Astroneer Glitchwalkers DLC, even to the point of emailing support for their team because it kept crashing my Xbox, and not just a little crash, like the Xbox just goes black. No beta boop, just goes black. I'm like, okay. Now, in present, I'm aware that unfortunately my Xbox Series X is dying again. Even though it got repaired earlier in 2024, so I'm not too terribly happy about it. And of course, it's past the 90 days to get any kind of fucking support from Microsoft.
Mm-hmm.
So at some point, probably next month, I'm gonna buy a new Xbox Series X because I'm fucking tired of this bullshit. So the SSD works great on this repaired version Series X. What is happening again with frequency is my controllers keep constantly disconnect and won't stay connected for more than a minute, which I've solved with a long USB cord, but I shouldn't have to. And then it's really weird. And I'm almost wondering if maybe it's the power supply. So I can run top of the line Indiana Jones, which has full ray tracing from top to bottom, just fine without it crashing. I can run Sonic Generations, Cross Shadow, just fine without crashing. But if I want to play Astroneer or a couple of other games,
nope.
Xbox says no. So, and I tried everything on Astroneer. I even rented a server to play Astroneer with a friend of mine so we could get to the DLC, which turned out to be a bad decision. Not because the server wasn't great, because it was great. It was a fantastic experience. Those who are familiar with Astroneer co-op, sometimes co-op crashes, and if you hadn't saved in a while, that can be a bummer. Not a problem on the server because the world just keeps on trucking when you're not there, which was great, except for the fact I missed the byline in the patch notes for the Glitchwalkers DLC, their first and only expansion for Astroneer, where they said server support for the DLC is coming in 2025. So we got up to the point of accessing the DLC, and by the way, it's not in the code on the server version because they haven't put it there yet. So I had to restart the game, but I was determined to play this DLC, Nate. So I did the last thing that I hadn't thought of it before, and I'm glad that I did because I had zero issues with it. I played the entirety of this fucking DLC through xCloud on my Xbox. Oh yeah.
So your Xbox is an Xbox, huh?
Oh god. It was yeah. It felt weird and wrong. So I think the best thing that I can say about that is I like the DLC. I'm not in love with it. Some people are in love with it. Some people hate it. There are some really cool things in the DLC that I don't want to spoil for people, particularly because its take on its new planet is interesting, and I've not seen it in a procedurally generated world game So far, it's very sci-fi, which I love. I won't spoil that for people, but it was definitely, there was many sci-fi like, oh shit, like moments in the game as you progressed, and like, that's a cool. I
Right.
like that. That's very good. Well done, Astroneer. Um, but what wasn't great was the new core gameplay mechanics that you do to progress are not super clear, and almost every single one of them, I ended up having to look up at least a little bit because, and I think the frustrating thing about it is like, at this point, I feel like I'm an Astroneer master and I'm tripping over poor in-game guidance of how to continue.
Gotcha.
So to basically put the gist of, I don't want to spoil anything for people who are on the fence getting the DLC. I think you should get it, especially because it's only like $20 or $15.
Mhm.
It's really cheap. It's not expensive at all. And I want Astroneer to continue into the future. Basically, the crux of the game is you go to a new planet in a new system, which is new for Astroneer because it's always ever been the same solar system with the same 7 planets. The difference is anytime you start up the game, those planets are procedurally generated with the same like biome kind of thing, but their geography is different and that sort of stuff. And the crux is that you're kind of stuck on this planet, and there's some ambiguity to the story because there's a story in this one, complete with like logs that are like, bits are redacted and stuff. So you're like trying to piece it together and stuff.
Sure.
But to get off the ground, because like I saw some people in Reddit that was like, oh, that DLC sucked. I beat it in 8 hours or whatever the hell, which doesn't make any sense to me because having played the game, I'm like, even if you knew what to do, that seems physically fucking impossible to have done that. So they're fucking lying to you. But I agree that the thing you do to progress, even once you figure out what it is that you're doing, because it's not super clear, it's fun for the first 2 times. And then they kind of rinse and repeat that several more times after
Sure.
that, which, okay, fine. But it would have been nice to have a little bit more variety in the objectives, which sucks because the planet itself is like, the name of its game is variety. Because this planet is a self-professed like mega planet and it has multiple biomes,
Right.
multiple biomes, which is interesting and fascinating for Astroneer. So, but enough about that. I think it's a great DLC. I'm not in love with the DLC. I do love that there's new stuff. And actually, one of the things that my co-op partner who was playing it with me disliked was, so basically when you go to this new planet, and especially with astroneers like us, we're like, okay, we know what we need to build and stuff. And then the game straight up from the beginning is like, nope, you don't have access to that technology. And so on the one hand, it's like, well, fuck. That's going to make this a hell of a lot harder. But on the other hand, it forced us to engineer our way through problems through ways that
Astroneer?
Yeah, which I enjoyed. They were not always terrific solutions, but they worked. A lot of the game is crafting and building and connecting things in a Lego-like fashion. Something that we came across real early was our bases were drawing too much power, but they didn't have the recipe unlocked to make a large battery bank. So we're forced to use small batteries and generators.
Right.
So what we ended up doing was we made a tree farm. We had an automation unit that would harvest organic from the trees that would then burn it into carbon, which then goes into another generator to produce power. It was an inelegant solution, but
Right.
it worked.
If at first you don't succeed, brute force your way through it.
Yeah, it was a weird solution, but it worked. So yeah, I'm excited for that, and other people. Hopefully, it sells well for them. It launched late on Switch. I did purchase it on Switch, but I'm not as far in my Switch version because you have to get to a certain point in the main game before you can access the DLC.
Right.
Which definitely is a little cumbersome. And also like it's a weird thing because on the one hand, it's designed that way. Like there's some story quests that lead you into the DLC, but on the other hand, like when you start the DLC, you're basically starting a fresh save. You don't have any of your gear, you don't have anything in your backpack. Like there's nothing you take with you from the base game to the DLC. So on the other hand, it's like, well, they could have just hit, hey, do you want to play the DLC and start from there? Because you wouldn't be like, it basically just adds like an extra 5 hours of
Gotcha.
doing stuff to get to it, which is a little annoying. I can understand why they did that, but at the end of the day, since they do strip you of everything when you go in, it doesn't make a ton of sense. I'd rather have it been an option you just go to in the menu. But I digress. Moving on from that, we had the Game Awards. Or actually, no, we had a couple other things for Game Awards. Sorry.
The Golden Joystick.
So, yeah, Golden Joysticks occurred. I always forget about them.
Right.
And that's what I wrote on Discord. I always forget about them. They're basically a British public choice awards that have been going for 12 years, something like that.
Yeah. And they're strictly just a video game award. They're not a Keeley production.
Yeah.
Yet.
True. So where is this not the winning thing? Yeah. Oh, here are all the winners. Sorry. It's in a link within the link that I posted.
Oh.
Interesting. So Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Helldivers 2 took home 4 of the 6 awards, nominated for Best Storytelling, Best Soundtrack, Best Leading Performance for the Cloud actor, Cody Christensen, Best Supporting Performer for Eris Brianna White. Meanwhile, Helldivers claimed 3 of its 5 nominations, Best Multiplayer Game, Best Game Trailer, Console Game of the Year, interesting category, as well as the coveted Critics' Choice Award. The other leading nominee, Astrobot, claimed 2 prizes, Best Audio Design and Studio of the Year for Team Asobi. Biggest prize of the night went to Black Myth Wukong, which took home the coveted Ultimate Game of the Year prize in an astonishing result for a debut console developer, Game Science. That's what happened at the Golden Joystick Awards. Scrolling. Baldur's Gate is getting another huge update in 2025 because they don't know when to stop, including 8. Or no, sorry, that's the wrong data. Let me read this. Loading website.
Now loading.
Loading website slowly. What in the ass fuck was that noise?
You don't know that sound?
It sounds StarCraft?
No. Now entering the game grid. Tron.
Tron? The first Tron?
Yeah.
Oh. Sorry. I guess my mind leapt to video games, which I guess, sure, Tron's kind of a video game, but I don't know. Sorry, that one takes me back. The one that I remember the most from the original Tron was what was he called, the qubit or the quarks, the
Yeah,
noises those guys made.
Yeah.
That's what I remember the most.
I have those.
As far as, oh, you do? Oh, of course you do. Anyway, Baldur's Gate patch 8 will drop in 2025. It's going to add crossplay. Damn, that's a big one. Photo mode. Oh, yep, there you go. Yep, that's the one. And then crazily enough, they're going to add 12 new subclasses, which is
That's crazy.
insane. It's absolutely insane. And crossplay makes a lot of sense for that particular game. Good on them. And just to confirm, crossplay is between PlayStation, Xbox, Windows, and Mac. So,
Sorry, Switch.
yeah. I mean, I'm sure the Switch 2 will be powerful enough to run it. Or at the very least, this developer doesn't seem quite done with its legacy with this game yet, so it'll get ported to it.
Right. Or they'll
And
just wait for
actually-
it to be on, xCloud and switch to get the Xbox app, and whatever, you're fine.
Yeah, exactly. Honestly, though, I am expecting, especially because Larian did the port themselves for the Mac version, so it's already running on Apple Silicon. I wouldn't be surprised if they throw it to like an iPad Pro or something, because it's basically a PC game anyway. So a touch interface works really good with a mouse and keyboard kind of thing.
Mhm.
It's turn based anyway, so
Right. No.
I feel like that.
no
I
quick
feel like
time
that's
events.
a translate. And also, the other two Baldur's Gates are on iPad. So I'm just saying. You want all your Baldur Gates, your iPad. That's a thing.
You just want to play another game in bed.
Yes, I do. I'm a big proponent of playing whether I'm laying down or I'm taking a shit or I'm not paying attention to the TV show my wife has on. Whatever, whenever I can get the game in, is the best way to
Just
play.
give me more of those games.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a thing. There's an interesting article, and I'm only bringing it up because nobody else cares about this franchise like I do. Beyond Good and Evil 2 development was hindered by a massive problem between managers having different visions for the game. Given the fact that the game was announced like 14 fucking years ago and is still not coming out, despite the fact that Ubisoft president has said it's coming along. Whatever the fuck that means.
Means we locked those
Yeah.
managers in a room together and said, fight.
Yeah, it just sucks because obviously the 20th, 30th anniversary game came out last year. Met to thunderous applause, including the remastered soundtrack. One of my favorite games of all time. And we still don't have a sequel to it. And Ubisoft's in a real bad spot financially and creatively right now. I don't know if we're ever going to see this game. I really don't. I want to. It's just a matter of the two biggest problems I have with Beyond Good and Evil, besides the fact that we haven't gotten the sequel yet, is Beyond Good and Evil 1's a Zelda game. Straight up. It is a Zelda game with one of the most beautiful stories you've ever seen. And then when they announced Beyond Good and Evil 2, which is a prequel somehow, it's a multi-planet sci-fi GTA with like a Firefly vibe. And it's like, on the one hand, that's not what I wanted from a sequel. On the other, yes, please, I want that kind of game.
Right.
game. So I don't know. We'll see if it somehow came out in 2025 and is good, cool. I'm not holding my breath for that franchise.
I mean, let's hope it's beyond good and evil.
I don't have anything to thong myself with, so we'll just move on.
More No Man's Sky announcements for the holiday.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So video game awards. Did you watch the video game awards, Nate?
Bits and pieces. I actually thought I missed a bunch, and then through the course of my podcast listening, that a couple of them did um, watch throughs with it. Apparently, I didn't miss that much. So yeah, I guess I did watch them. I didn't pay like real close attention to them because it was just advertisement after advertisement, and then 3 awards.
I mean, it was more than 3 awards, but okay.
Well, no, like it was, they'd show a handful of trailers and bust out 3 awards, and then another handful of trailers. I guess there was over 60 games showcased during the Game Awards.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
It was a lot. I've heard everything from, as is usual for Game Awards, to it sucked, to it's mid, to it's perfectly balanced, to it's one of the best awards yet. I'm going to say that it was pretty balanced.
Yeah.
I didn't feel, and the pacing felt way better than other years.
Right.
There wasn't weird interstitials or famous celebrities being on stage for too long and hogging up the mic. There certainly wasn't any kids or people bum rushing the stage and doing pranks like have happened in years before. Yeah. So I'm going to go over what I remember of the Game Awards since it's been about a month now, rather than go into crazy detail because that'll take all day anyway.
Right.
The things that stood out to me were the next game from Hazelight Studios, who's the It Takes Two, Way Out developers, former Game of the Year winner, and deservedly so, actually, in my opinion. Split Fiction could not be any more of a me and my wife type game if I had done it myself. So for those who don't know, it's another co-op crazy action adventure. It centers around 2 writers who in the future their minds like go into VR worlds and they like shape the worlds with their minds and stuff. And they're working for a corporation that then wants to steal basically their original ideas. And the VR thing breaks, and these 2 writers get trapped in a combination of their 2 respective worlds, except one of the writers writes fantasy, and one of the writers writes science fiction. And so I'm the fantasy guy.
Right.
Me, that's me. Wrote a sci-fi. Or I'm sorry, what did I say? I didn't. Did I
You
say
said you're the
fantasy?
fantasy guy, but you're
No,
not.
I'm
You're
not
the
the fantasy
sci-fi
guy. I'm the sci-fi guy. I don't know why I said that wrong. I'm the sci-fi guy. Obviously, I wrote a sci-fi novel. And Jessica's the fantasy girl. And the game comes out like next month, for that matter. So it's real close to coming out and being done. And I'm like, man, like they showed things from like riding around on dragons to turning into like Metroid Prime morph balls and lasers and everything in between. And given how delightful the previous game was, I'm like, man, that game is like made for like me and my wife. Like how that's so great. What a fucking idea. And the fact that this developer has been firing on all cylinders for several games now, I'm like, it shot right to the top of my I'm getting this day one to play with my wife because it's the perfect, like the way they handle co-op with the merging of the split screens,
Right.
having different tasks. Like it is the most co-op-y co-op game that has ever co-opted in the history of co-ops. And that's what Hazelight makes. And this is their like, see, it was Brothers, A Way Out. Did It Takes Two? Did it jump from A Way Out to It Takes Two? So this is their 4th game? I think so. I feel like there's one more in there. Maybe I'm forgetting it. Not sure. But anyway, they showed that off and I was like, damn, that A, looks like a real ass video game doing video game things. And B, what a concept. And what a great name. Split Fiction? Get the fuck out of here.
Right.
Like, that is a great name. You know, so much so that I'm going to segue all the way to the end of the Video Game Awards to what's not a great name, which is the new Naughty Dog game announcement, Intergalactic Rise of the Heretic Prophet or some bullshit.
Right.
And I'm like,
They went into Chat GPT and said, generate a video game ass name.
Mm-hmm. So I'm super mixed on this one. On the one hand, I'm super excited that Naughty Dog is not doing grimdark fucking Last of Us again. And they're returning to their sci-fi roots from their Jack and Daxter series in a way, obviously not the same universe. Brand new IP, brand new franchise.
Horrible name. Hopefully that's
yeah,
a working title.
Absolutely trash, horrible, generic name. And I've fought with people on Reddit about this. And, you know, they made the good point of like, they're like, okay, well, Uncharted is generic. And The Last of Us is kind of generic. You know? And I'm like, yeah.
Right.
And we only look at those fondly because the games are good.
But it's Uncharted. It's The Last of Us. It's not word soup.
Yeah, there's definitely like a word salad thing. And I've been saying this for years, for literal years. Me and Dame talked about it in the Last of Us 2 spoiler cast, I believe. In the Last of Us universe, there's a comic that's like collectible. And the story's not really gotten into, but you see some art of it. And there's posters everywhere in the post-apocalyptic world of a comic book that Ellie likes called Savage Starlight. And I'm like, see, that's a name. Whatever that is, I want that game. And this game should be called fucking Savage Starlight. I'm just saying, what the fuck? What the fuck is Intergalactic? Like, okay, I get it. I get it from a name standpoint, but why subtitle? Right. You know? And then it's like, okay, well, Jack and Daxter, the first game, Jack and Daxter, semicolon, the precursor legacy. And it's like, okay, fine. But if you're going to try to do yourself again, don't be generic about it. Be like Rwanda and
right. Why not just call it the Heretic Prophet?
Yeah, I don't know. Because like, and the thing is, and this was said on Last Stand podcast, so I am regurgitating it here, so don't at me. But I totally agree. The Heretic Prophet sounds like the name of a Covenant ship. Mm-hmm. You know, and it's like, okay, just sure.
I will buy this game for the soundtrack alone, you know it.
Yeah, so that's the other thing. So okay, so here's what we know about the Heretic Prophet. We know there's no release date. We know they've been working on it since 2020, which is nice, good, since we're entering 5 years of development now. Mm-hmm. We know it's a brand new IP in a brand new universe. It's going to be R-rated because they dropped some F-bombs in the trailer. We know that... Hang on, I have to look it up here because I don't know her name. The main character is played by... I believe she's Taiwanese black, and she was in the Netflix series You. Intergalactic. I'm on IMDb, and of course, when you type Intergalactic, you get 50 matches. So it stars
Tati Gabrielle.
Tati Gabrielle, who's a wonderful actress. But specifically, I've talked before, I love the series You. She's in several seasons of You. She's terrific. So I think her being the actress lead, she's got some real chops, grounded in survival horror, I guess, right, is how I would put her character from You. So real good action there. There's already been a ton of controversy online about her being shaved head and kind of masculine looking, which The thing that rubs me the wrong way about this is I was on two minds. When I first saw this trailer, I was like, okay, another masculine chick. Like I don't hate that, but there's definitely been a lot of masculine chicks coming out of the studio Naughty Dog. So I was like, okay, you guys could have done something different, I guess. But it was only after the fact that I learned who the actress is, and I was like, well, and she's like really pretty, and if you look up any pictures of her, like, you know, she's less masculine than she looks when she has a bald head, I guess. I mean, I guess you just look masculine if you have a bald head, but I guess that's just humans. So we'll see on that one. I definitely don't doubt her acting chops. I'm sure we'll probably enjoy the character.
I'll never understand why people care so much about that in their game.
I mean, I think the thing for me with it is, given the controversy that The Last of Us has started, willingly or unwillingly, over the last decade, there was definitely some choices that you could have made in this reveal trailer that maybe wouldn't have pissed people off. Because the other thing that I look at it is that if you go onto YouTube right now, Intergalactic Rise of the Heretic Project has like the most disliked PlayStation game of all time on YouTube. And I was like, oh, whoa. The public reacted super hyper negatively to that. And it seems fixated around this masculine.
And that's what I don't understand. Like, why do you care that much? Like, I get some people like, okay, not what I would have done, but to the point where you go and review bomb something.
That's where I'm at. Like, I'm in it because it's sci-fi and it's Naughty Dog and it's something new. Like, I'm down for that thing. And then the other thing that the trailer showed is that confirmed actors Kamal Nanjiani is going to be in it. Actor Tony Dalton, who is most famous for playing. I
want to say James Bond, but that's Timothy Dalton.
No. Lalo Salamanca in the Better Call Saul series. Fantastic portrayal. Basically, so friendly, but so evil. Like, he played like a happy psychopath. Like, it's like, ooh.
Okay.
Yeah, he's stabbing that dude, and he's real happy about it. It's like, oh, that's a mix. I don't like that, but that's good acting. So he's fantastic. Don't know what his role is in that. We know that it's taking place in an alternate 1980s where technology
Sign me up for that.
Where technology raced up to space travel by the 80s. And then the trailer shows, Sony Walkman and tape decks and everything retro and futuristic and name brand too. Like, they're the spaceship you're flying around is a Porsche.
Nice.
Very interesting. Like, she's drinking like a big gulp. Like, it's like, okay, that's interesting.
Some appropriate but product placement. That's
Yeah, I've seen some people shitting on that, but I was like, okay, if we really did get to space and intergalactic in the 80s, like, yeah, why not? I don't mind alternate history stuff. The plot centers around Tat Gabriel's character, whose name is Jordan A. Munn, going to some planet where her father was last seen, and is apparently, and has been stated by Neil Druckmann, the writer-director of this one and head honcho at Naughty Dog, that they are going to get into, or a big topic of this game will be religion. Whether that means, I'm assuming sci-fi religion, given that it's called Heretic Prophet. And it shows her wielding some sort of like laser, Buster vibro sword thing, fighting a robot. I thought the robot looked a little generic, if I'm being totally honest. But everything else about it, I'm pretty stoked. And then, of course, the thing that Nate's most stoked for, and honestly, I'm most stoked for, is this will be a return, because everybody forgets this, to video games for one Trent Reznor, with his co-composer Atticus Ross, who is composing the score for Intergalactic. As you can hear in the trailer, apparently that is official music from the game. And I'm like, they're doing that and they're doing Tron Ares. I'm go on. That's what I have to say about that. Yeah. So we'll see. Obviously, we don't know. We don't know if you're going to be able to fly this spaceship. We don't know if this is just going to be you're stuck on one planet for the whole game. We don't know what the actual game is. We can assume, because she pulls out a laser sword and fights a robot, that there's going to be third-person combat. And given the fact that all of their games have been third-person, probably good chance it's going to be third-person action adventure. But whether or not it's like a sci-fi Uncharted or if it's something totally different remains to be seen. So yeah, that was a lot of talking about that. But there were a couple other things that stood out to me in the Game Awards. The ones that I remember was, of course, nobody expected this. There's a new Elden Ring game coming out this year, but it's not quite what everybody thinks it will be. So apparently, developed in secret and tandem alongside regular Elden Ring and Shadow of the Erdtree, is a third Elden Ring game that's going to be their take on a alternate universe of their own Elden Ring, roguelike with some Fortnite battle royale ring shrinking thing, and the gameplay loop's only going to last 6 hours. And there will be specific classes.
Okay.
And so I guess the idea is you select a class.
You play for 6 hours.
Yeah, every 2 hours, night comes and a boss comes out. And if you can beat that boss, you make it to the next round. You got to go. And it's doing some Tears of the Kingdom ass shit with the main original map from the first Elden Ring, where it's that map, but it's different.
Okay.
And super strangely, it's single player or 3-player co-op. There's no 2-player co-op. Don't know why. Makes literally no sense. But then again, neither is the way co-op works in Elden Ring. So, I don't know. It's called Elden Ring Night Rain. They showed off a new like hawk, spectral ghost hawk thing that you can use to fly around the environment, which seems fucking sick, honestly. Saw a lot of old enemies. Unfortunately, saw spiders. Not looking forward to that in the slightest. And then I thought it was interesting and weird, and it's coming out this year at some point. I would imagine summer, probably. Although the closed beta for it is happening like this month, so I don't know, maybe sooner. I don't know. It came out of left field. It's their take on a more multiplayer focused thing with some ideas from other games.
I mean, go for it. Like,
I'm interested in it only because it's Elden Ring. The one thing that I felt weird about when I saw it at the Game Awards was I couldn't believe there's a third Elden Ring game essentially coming out. And the other thought that I had was like, man, I'm a little fatigued on Elden Ring.
Sure.
If I'm being totally honest, I've played an obscene amount of that. Don't know if I'm ready for yet another one, yet alone one that seems like, I guess if I'm playing it, I need to have about 6 hours, which seems strange to force your players down into a path. But we'll see. I actually like roguelites a lot.
Right.
I tend to hate them at first, and then I fall in love. So we'll see.
I look at it this way: it's they're taking a known IP, and they're taking a swing with it. And what's the worst thing that's going to happen?
That's true.
Right? What's the worst thing? People hate it and they go, okay, cool. We're
Let
moving
me know
on.
when Elden Ring 2
Right.
is actually coming. Yeah. But it also does go back to that Miyazaki is just a total fucking liar of a director. And anytime he's interviewed, nothing he says can be trusted. Because time and time and time and time again, you know, there's countless interviews. Like there's a whole Reddit thread of like every time he's lied. And I think he just has fun with it. Like he just says stuff and then whatever the game is. Like I think somewhere along the way it was like, oh yeah, Elden Ring. It's like, yeah, it's not going to be open world. Yeah, Elden Ring. Oh, it's not that big. You know, oh, DLC. They're like, oh yeah, it's about the size of the first starting area. And it's like, fucking liar. And then after fucking Shadow of the Erd Tree came out, and they're like, well, yeah, we're done with Elden Ring for quite some time. There's no
Nowhere else we can go with it.
There's no expansion or sequel that is currently in development, which technically is true because Night Rain is going to be a standalone title. It's not DLC. So I'm like, this fucking cheeky, slimy, like you can't trust anything that he says. And I'm just like, oh, there's no sequel for Elden Ring 2? Maybe that's true. Bloodborne coming to PC? Maybe that's true. Maybe like he's just like, this guy. I think he delights in people calling him a liar.
That and
I think he's a sick masochist.
The entire studio has to be on board with this, obviously. Otherwise, things would have gotten leaked. Like,
well, and so here's the thing. So we've known for years that they've had two teams. One works on the Armored Core series, one works on Elden Ring, and then they flip flop. They announced this year that the team that made Shadow of the Erd Tree is not the main Elden Ring team. And then they announced again with Night Rain that this is their fourth team. So I'm like, oh, fuck. This studio out here with 4 motherfucking games in the works at any time. Like they are on fucking fire.
Right.
like they're ridiculous. Like there's only a handful of studios that could even be comparable to their output. Like the only one that comes to mind is Insomniac.
From
and even then, like it's like Jesus, these guys, they're everybody leave them the fuck alone because they're making a shit ton of money. They're making a ton of games. Like they've got it down. Yeah. They've got it down.
And again, like take swings. Like I appreciate that because I'm so tired of everyone chasing, the battle royale ring or.
Well, I think it's interesting that it'll be paid. Like, this is not a free to play thing.
Sure.
Like, this is not a hey, we're trying the free to play thing. It's like, nope, this is going to be a paid title, standalone.
Good.
It's like, okay,
good. Reset the market, please. Do something.
And maybe they will.
Right. Someone do something
don't fucking
different.
Underestimate them because they fuck with shit. This is fucking crazy.
Yeah, we all see the writing on the wall that the gaming industry, as far as the pricing model and the way that they're, I guess, scheming ideas at this point, has gotten so bland and generic.
Yeah.
That it's going to take someone with the chops just come in and go, we're doing this now.
Mm-hmm. Well, they got the money, they got the clout, they got the respect, they got the prestige.
Right. And again, they can take swings.
Yeah. And for all I know, this whole concept, which seems kind of jarring with its two separate concepts, maybe it's the best fucking version of a roguelike battle royale thing majig ever. Maybe it's tits. I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. And then the last thing that I remember about the Video Game Awards before we toss it over to Nate, which is honestly, given my history, the thing I am most excited about that came out of the Game Awards. So there is a new game in early development from the creator of Ico, Shadow of the Colossus, and The Last Guardian. And for those who knows his games and his history, they always take place in these beautiful, nondescript, very minimal dialogue worlds that draw you into their story with the way the worlds are made. And there's some kind of loose connective tissue through all of the games. And when this game started off and they showed that it was from this guy, and the first thing they show is a dude and he's wearing the motherfucking cloak from Shadow of the Colossus. And I'm like,
Hold up.
bruh,
Yeah.
bruh, 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 bruh. And then he gets onto a giant motherfucking mech as some weird sci-fi wave wipes it out. And then he flies away in an alien skull. And I'm like, bruh, 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 bruh. And then there's some bullshit like Project fucking Mech or some code name for a thing. And I'm just like, I want it. Give it to me now. So I'm hoping he doesn't repeat the mistakes that he's made, because it's a new team formed under him because his old studio is long gone, killed by Sony, actually. I'm hoping he doesn't repeat the same mistakes that he's made on his other games, which is development hell. Every single one of those fucking marquee games that are legendary, all had development hell. Every single fucking one of them, particularly The Last Guardian. Last Guardian changed gameplay, changed platforms it was developing on, took like 10 years to come out, was the weakest of his games. So hopefully he's got that shit together this time. We'll see. I'm going to say no based on history, but
Yeah, never know.
new team with some of the old members. So we'll see. Regardless, that was the trailer that I lost my shit about at the Game Awards because I was just like, I know what this is. This motherfucker is doing maybe we don't. I mean, it doesn't really. I don't know. The best thing about it was that it was in game, because the graphics were not that polished. Like it was like it was rough around the edges, and it's like, okay, it's in game. This is good. That's promising. It doesn't mean, you know. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it said Epic Games Publishing on that one. So that means it's well funded, at least. So we'll see. We'll see.
So here's my like the one gripe I'm starting to have, and not specifically with the Game Awards, but a lot of the stuff that was coming out. We're in UE5 hell at this point. Like,
yes,
I'm watching
time.
trailers and I go, oh look, another UE5 game. Oh look, another UE5 game. Oh look, another, and it's almost gotten to the point where we had probably in the late 90s where every shooter was, oh look, another olive drab shooter. Right?
Not 90s. You're thinking of the mid 2000s.
Or mid 2000s. Sorry. I've been around
a
while. But
that was the Unreal 3 hell. I know exactly what you're talking about, where every single fucking game looked like Gears of War.
Right. And now everything is shiny and wet. And
I don't know about everything. But, okay.
Like it's got that tone to it. It's like, oh look, we can do light stuff, so we're gonna do light stuff.
It's true.
Right. It's almost to the point where it's not like it's gone past its realism. I want to see some matte surfaces. Everything doesn't have to be reflective.
True.
But yeah, like that's.
I mean, I know you're fearful of a UE5 hell, but to that I'll say, at this point in time, at the beginning of 2025, well,
it's a good hell to be in.
What Unreal Engine 5 games have you played that shipped?
Which ones are out there?
Finals,
right?
And AFK Journey on mobile.
Is that UE5 really?
Yeah. Yes.
Ugh. But yeah, no, like everything has got it's got this look now, and that's having been through the UE3 hell. Like, oh come on, like can
yeah.
It's such a powerful engine. Can we do something different with it? Right? Like
I think
AFK Journey,
problem,
you know, does it isn't like, "Ooh, look, we can make everything shiny." No, they did a nice character style and good animation, and it's just a solid, smooth running game.
UE 3 through 5 have had the same historic problem. Epic has done everything they can to minimize the same problem they had with the start of 3, where 3 is really powerful. Everybody wants it. By the way, everybody who's using it kind of using a beta version.
Mhm.
Same thing happened with 4. It's not until really the last couple years where everything is UE4, and it's been available since the Switch came out, for
Mhm.
Christ's sake. And UE5 has been available for years now.
Just dropped
Um,
5.5.
exactly. And it really wasn't until I think now with 5.5, because I watched the Epic thing. I'm not sure if I put it in or not, or if it happened during our off time or not. That one of their big things was they reduced CPU overhead by 50%.
Right.
And I'm like, oh,
That's
that's a big fucking number.
Yeah.
And everything that I've heard is that
Now if they can reduce GPU overhead, I'd be very happy.
sure. The thing I've heard most for UE5 is it's super duper duper powerful. It's amazing. It's designed for this console generation, but it's not quite working within the 16 gig
Mhm.
console RAM frame. Because we hear that every single time with specifically Xbox Series S. It's like, oh, the RAM's holding it back and stuff. And it's like, well, is it? Or is it the engine? It's too big, the britches, because like there's Xbox Series S running the Matrix UE5 demo from 3 years ago, but they had help from a coalition, Unreal Engine experts.
Mm.
And I think the thing that I've seen more this generation with UE4 is that more big developers have switched to Unreal and have become experts with Unreal, fixing the things that Unreal is not good at.
Sure. Applying what
Um,
they've learned from other engines or even self-made engines.
yeah, and I look no further than the Final Fantasy VII remake games, which are on Unreal Engine 4, and are by far the best looking, best performant Unreal Engine 4 games. Period. Period. Just hands down in that regard. And I look forward at Unreal Engine 5 games, and they're coming. We're going to get an absolute fuck ton of them
Mhm.
this year. And I think it's just developers coming to grips with them like anything, but also Epic catching up to where their ambitions meet how they need to rework it for the technology.
Right.
Because we know it's a great game engine. We know games can run extremely well on it. I look no further than the finals.
Mhm.
It's on all current gen consoles. Runs 60 frames a second, and there's shit going on in that game that is not going on in static games. Um, so yeah, that's like a whole thing. So yeah, but going back to you about the video game awards, sorry for hogging all the time there. What hit you for the game awards, if anything?
Nothing really. Like there was that I guess was it Mafia where it's the feudal Japan or
Oh, the
Ronin
old
the, the
the
old
old country?
country. Yeah.
Yeah.
That one looked like something I would play.
Have you played the Mafia games?
I have not.
So they're all each one's better than the last
Mhm.
for starters. They're all very good. They are straight up a Grand Theft Auto game
Right.
through and through, quite literally with Mafia in the title. But they're good at it. They're
Right.
like one of those ones that's like a very reliable, like, oh, these guys learn from their mistakes. They make games better. They make the stories better. They make their worlds
And
better.
and that's what
They
I've
make
heard. So it was one of those like
Mhm.
I'm looking at this going, okay, the studio's got pedigree.
Yes.
Um
They're
and
out of
this
California,
yeah.
actually.
And it's like this one looks I think I might actually sit down because I typically shy away from the GTAs because while I like a good open world game, I don't like a good open world game because my ADHD is like squirrel, right?
Yeah.
So
Well, you like a curated,
right,
careful open world. You don't like an Ubisoft open world
right.
where there's
Cyberpunk 27's
100,000
yeah.
fucking things on the map.
Cyberpunk is just driving me nuts, but at least
True.
if I stay on path, it's pretty straightforward. Indiana Jones. I didn't realize how many side quests there were until I started playing it, and it's like, oh, I can go do more stuff. And then, but they've structured it in a way that my ADHD is going to stay on the game path. I'm
Mhm.
not constantly being, you know, I open up a journal and it's like, oh, you want to learn this? You can go and do this. Go rescue the cat out of the tree, kind of thing. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, when it starts getting way too open world, I lose focus and I don't even like 3 side quests later. I'm going, what was the original quest?
You know what open world game? I mean, I guess if you like the actual type of core gameplay, but in terms of open world, and I always keep referring back to it um, as the best Ubisoft open world game that's not made by Ubisoft is Ghost of Tsushima,
I've heard that.
where there's nothing on the fucking map. I mean, there are things on the map if you
Mhm.
want them on the map, but by default, they're just off. You're looking at this gorgeous world, and it's like, oh, which way do I go? And you press the button, and the wind blows,
Right.
and then all the trees and the leaves kind of move in a direction. And you're like, oh, I guess I go that way, or it's like, oh, what's that? There's like a golden flock of birds over there. What are
Right.
those birds about? And they lead you to something. Like, it is the most well designed, thought out, within the aesthetic of feudal Japan,
Mhm.
like thing, um, pretty much ever. Um, and um, I've actually seen some open world games copy some of their designs. In fact, recently on some of the stuff that I've been playing with, like uh, easing you into an open world that is in fact jam packed, but
Right.
doesn't look like it. You know, that's something that I would say, I wouldn't say necessarily is the best, but it's definitely like a middle ground between a Ghost of Tsushima and like a Ubisoft or a GTA where there's 100 things on the map. Would be the Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom
Right.
Zelda game, where it's like, yeah, there is a absolute shit ton of stuff. It's like, but it's kind of a happy medium of
Right. Like
stuff on the map to.
I'll say the original FS7, right? Like you went when it went on your rails and you got into the open and you could just go,
Mhm.
but you still kind of had it was like this is what you need to do.
Sure, but I mean, that was also a time before we had quest markers.
Right. And
You
we
know,
also didn't have, the sheer volume of first pers in our PCs to get away with shit like that too.
sure, sure, yeah, it's certainly not like the remake where there's a ton of open world and there's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot that it does and a lot that it does right and a lot that it does wrong. Um, okay, so Mafia, Old Country. Anything else?
So much that I can remember. I remember watching it going, huh, that looks interesting. Huh, that looks interesting. But nothing like I guess nothing really notable that I can remember like what 2 weeks out. So that says a lot.
Yeah, the only other cool thing at the Video Game Awards, other than the show as a whole was pretty good and smooth, and one I definitely didn't expect was Harrison Ford getting on stage.
Right.
Like, I didn't expect that at
With
all.
Troy Baker? Yeah.
With Troy Baker, and what he said was pretty solid.
Mhm.
He's just like, oh man, if I had known Troy was going to do indie that good, I would have done it myself.
Right.
um, yeah. So I say that's it for the Game Awards.
Yeah, but right into that, like, I've been playing Indiana Jones, and, when I first, it's what's funny.
Well, do we want to move into the games we're playing, or you want to just talk about it?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, go for it.
Um,
I'm 6 hours in. I have not moved from that 6 hours, unfortunately, during my whole holiday.
right, I think I'm probably about the same spot you are then.
So I'm at the
Have you met the nun?
no.
Okay.
I just got the Vatican clothes
Okay.
from the guy
Okay.
after like the first Vatican
Yeah.
area.
And I know where you're at. Yeah, so you're a
Okay,
little
good.
you're a little bit behind me. But yeah,
Okay.
I've been thoroughly enjoying the game. And what's funny is the first time I tried to play it, I was over at the brother-in-law's house and I'm like, "Oh, Indy's out today. I'm going to try to play it." Downloaded it onto his wife's machine, fired it up, and it immediately said, "Your card's not RTX enabled." No.
Yeah, so that's so because obviously I'm still paying attention to Digital Foundry.
Mhm.
Um, so Indiana Jones, very interestingly and wisely, in
Mhm.
Digital Foundry's opinion, although I can see in that scenario it's bad, uh, they only use ray trace global illumination,
Right.
which is a big deal because for those who don't know, basically there are two differences in the way modern ray tracing is being used, especially on consoles these days. There's where it's ray tracing for specific objects and things to make things better. So, like characters, or like when you're near glass, or something like that,
Right.
where a traditional uh, painting of light or a different solution that kind of fakes light is implemented versus global illumination. Global means all in this case. So global meaning the entire, everything that's in the scene is being handled by ray tracing. And that is something that Digital Foundry hit on for Indiana Jones, that they only use ray tracing. There is no option to not have ray tracing.
Right.
So for PC, you have to have a ray tracing card supported, obviously. And then even down to the Series S, they only use ray tracing for their lighting solution, which they said is both interesting because it's the harder one to pull off from a technical standpoint, especially because Indiana Jones largely runs at 60 frames a second.
Mhm.
And one that they pointed out that since it is running on IdTech 5, and it's kind of questionable now because when, as you've seen, when you boot up the game, it says id tool
Right.
engine. It's questionable as to whether or not this is IdTech 6 or if this is a offshoot of IdTech 5
Mhm.
or if this is like moving forward, because nobody's heard about this until you booted up the game.
Mhm.
Is like, okay, well, is this going to be Microsoft pushing IdTech as the commercial version? Because I've said from a while now, Microsoft owns game engines that are or could be quote unquote comparable
Right.
to an Unreal Engine or a Unity, and they have id, who
Who's
fucking
legacy? Yeah.
got some of the best fucking people on the planet,
Right.
hands down. And look no further than you look at Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal, and the shit that that game's doing at 60 plus
Right.
FPS and no loss of fidelity, just absolutely crushing it. And it's applied to this more open, more refined visual thing for Indiana Jones. And it's like, well, man, they probably should if you were wise, but you know, Microsoft makes all kinds of crazy good and bad decisions every single fucking second of every single fucking day. Just like, and I might as well talk about it this second. So I haven't watched it yet, but the Secret Level show,
Mhm.
haven't seen it yet,
Me neither.
but I heard from executive producer Tim Miller that he had pitched a Doom and Halo crossover episode to Microsoft, and they told him no. And I'm thinking to myself, why?
Because the Halo part of it.
I guess, but why? God.
Right. But yeah, so what the funny thing is like, oh, well, that's a shame. Let me play it via cloud.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
it plays extremely well on cloud because it isn't,
Yeah.
it's not such a quick twitch pace kind of game, but it still looked every bit as good through cloud. Like I got home and I have a ray tracing card, so I was like, okay, let me see how much better it looks. And I'm like, other than a couple of times where it Netflixed out while I was playing it, it
Mm-hmm.
looked every bit as good locally as it did streaming. And like,
Yeah, that's one thing I'll say going back to the Astroneer thing, because I streamed to myself, obviously, maybe 35 hours of the new Astroneer. And yeah, it is not a graphical, it's not Indiana Jones in terms to its retro looking graphics. I was like, but exactly your scenario. So aside from a couple of times where the bit rate dropped and it got a little fuzzy, man, the it's very little lag. I had maybe 2 disconnects the whole time. Yeah, xCloud. I've said it before, it's the best at game streaming, hands down. It's real good.
Rip Stadia. Yeah.
It's real fucking good. Yep. Indeed.
But yeah, so I've been enjoying Indiana Jones a lot. Like, I love the story. There's some mechanical stuff about the game that I'm just like, really?
Like what?
The fact that
I
have
mean,
to.
we're talking indie. I can talk a little indie.
It's not even about indie though. It's the way you play. Like, insert key, then joystick right to turn the key, and then push forward to open it. Like, can I just hit B and it puts the key in and opens the door? Right.
So that's the funny thing. So I've heard that from other people. A lot of people who love. A lot of people call it like the
immersion. Like,
yeah, the immersive sim element to Indiana Jones that a lot of people didn't expect. To which I'd say is like, did you guys play their last games that they've done? Like, that's kind of a thing that they do, especially in first person.
Sure.
So it's like in their DNA to do that.
It's just too much. It's just way too damn much.
See, the way that I look at it as a gamer and someone who's played their prior games, even when they were originally called Starbreeze and did Chronicles of Riddick Escape from Butcher Bay, which, in my opinion, Indy has the most DNA from, which, given that that is a seminal game on the original Xbox, sadly its sequels sucked ass, but there's so much Chronicles of Riddick Escape from Butcher Bay in Indiana Jones, and that's the best fucking thing. Like, that's the best thing, in my opinion. Like, I love that we go third person occasionally and see Indy, but I love it, as stupid and back of the boxy as it is to say, I love that you are Indy.
Right.
And you're handling things like Indy, picking up stuff, whipping stuff, punching. Like, I love that it's simultaneously this action adventure indie, but with all of the quieter, slower moments from the movies that they really gloss over in the games, unless you count the original point and click adventure Fate of Atlantis, and some of the slower moments in Emperor's Tomb, which prior to this, in my opinion, was the hands down best Indiana Jones video game. They like, I haven't finished the game, and I've heard some people say after finishing it, game of the year, absolute shame it's not in the Game Awards.
Sure.
But I've heard a lot of people say that it is not just the best Indiana Jones video game, but one of the best video games.
Yeah. And so far, I would agree with that. It's just the mechanical tediousness of certain things just is like, right? And if there was a purpose to it, like, turn the knob and peek, I would understand having that in there for a door. But, like, that never happens. At least it hasn't happened yet. And I'm like, but
what are you playing on?
PC.
Controller or mouse and keyboard?
Both, actually. Depending on
it peak on the controller.
Oh, I know. No. But that's your left and right peak, right? Your lean around corners.
Can you not do that on a door?
No.
Oh,
and it's like you go through all this effort to open the door, and then you can't even turn around and close it behind you. Like,
okay,
well, what? But other than that, yeah, I love the Indiana Jones at all. The fact that, like, people were complaining, like, I can't believe they made us start with stupid ass fucking Raiders of the Lost Ark. I'm like, how is that not the best? How is that not the best tutorial ever?
Thank you. And that it's a dream
Right.
Sorry, spoilers for the first 30 minutes of the game.
Right.
Like, how is this not exactly, hey, here's the tutorial, here's our mission statement for what this game is going to be.
Right.
It's going to be first-person indie. It's going to be movie accurate, even though we're going to do our own thing in the story. And you're gonna do the Raiders scene.
Right. Everybody knows. It's like
everybody wants to do that.
Right.
When I was a kid at Disneyland watching this stupid live action thing where the actor runs from the fucking giant thing, I was like, who doesn't want to swipe the golden idol and run from the boulder?
Right.
Part of the magic, and particularly in the Lucasfilm games, and they know, is reliving some of the iconic scenes in a gameplay form.
Right.
Did I absolutely fall and get crushed by that boulder in that tutorial? Absolutely. Did it suck and it ruined my illusion?
I didn't.
Yes, it did. I was like, oh,
I
shit.
did not. But yeah,
Whoops.
but again, this is it. That was the tutorial. It's like, let's put you in a scene you already know. Right. So you don't have to overthink, like, is this part of the story? Do I have to? No, you know what this is. And it's like, okay, it already showed you it's going to be tedious because you have to swipe right to remove tarantulas. Right. You have to press the down key.
I didn't like that.
But you know what I mean? It's like, it's like, these are the mechanics. This is how you're going to, like, here's a puzzle. We're going to help you solve a puzzle in the context of, right.
Yeah,
here's your bag.
thing,
okay, dump a little sand
Yeah.
out. You gotta wiggle the joystick, and then it's like, cool. You learn the whip mechanics. You learn this everything, and
you learn the basic mechanics.
Yeah, it's like that was amazing. And then you wake up and you're like, okay, now we play the game.
Honestly, when it transitioned to him being a dream, I was like, oh, of course it's a dream. He still thinks about, like, well, because I failed and got crushed. In my headcanon, it was like, oh, he still thinks about maybe being crushed by that stupid boulder. And it's like, yeah, actually, if I had a live herring experience, which I've had a few, unfortunately, yes, I still have nightmares about them. I sometimes have nightmares about being cold and trapped on a mountain and freezing to death and dying. Like, that is a thing for me who's done that. Not the freezing to death part, but the frozen mountain. Everybody's heard that story before. So yeah, I think what it does is so good. The music is so good, although I totally expected that from Gordy Hab. He's done the Star Wars music for the Jedi games.
Yeah.
And he's done other Star Wars stuff. So him doing John Williams again, I was like, oh.
Right.
Well,
And he doesn't overdo it. Right. He doesn't
Nope. And
doesn't
the
break
new
away.
Stuff is great.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's such a light touch. Again, I think the beauty about this Indiana Jones game, and again, I'm only 6 hours in. Level 3 or 4, I guess, if you can call it that. If you can call them levels, I'm not sure. In this game, but all the things, and every time they introduce something new, like when they added the books for like upgrading your skills, and I was like, of course Indiana Jones would grab a book. Like, of course that's the thing that you collect. You know what I mean? It just seems so obvious, you know. Yeah, and
you're gonna kind of hate the camera mechanic.
What do you mean?
You're almost there, but you're gonna kind of hate the camera mechanic
in a bit. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
we'll see.
And again, it's how very indie of him.
So. Also, just in those 6 hours for me, how many times did you lose your hat?
Never. And I even researched the thing to like pick up my hat, dust it off, and try again. Like, I haven't had that opportunity. I'm like, why did I research this? I should have just researched Brawler, where I can punch people better.
So I did Brawler, and at least twice in the Vatican area, like I got punched by a dude and my hat fell off, and then like I would like finish the fight, and then I'd start moving, and then there'd be like a little video game ass icon like pointing behind. I'm like, oh, what? And I'd look on the ground, and I was like, there's your hat, and it's kind of lightly highlighted. I went, oh yeah, and then he grabbed the hat and I like put it on, and I was like, that is chef's kiss.
Right.
Chef's kiss. Like it's so good. And yeah, you're right. It is an upgrade for the hat thing. But I was just like, man, that's so good.
Right.
You
And
know?
the sound design of the fights is so just
Oh,
the celery stick into a side of beef kind of sound.
yeah. Well, and I love so the other thing for me that I'm really loving as someone who plays the Hitman games,
Mhm.
I love the Hitman element of like, okay, yeah, you've got Indy's pistol and it's kind of crappy
Don't ever use it.
and not great.
Yeah, don't ever
But I'm
use it.
like, I was like, oh, I'm using a parasol, I'm using a fucking boulder thing, a fucking broken doorknob and
Right.
everything else.
Cane. Yeah, like
Um and honestly, something people have complained about is like how dumb the AI is when you're using stealth.
yeah.
But honestly, from a gameplay perspective, I think that's fine, especially for this type of game. But you know what it also reminds me of in a way, and maybe they were conscious of this when they made it. It reminds me of every single fucking time Indy snuck anywhere in the films, and it's like, how do fucking people not notice him getting behind the goddamn plane
Right.
in fucking Egypt daylight? Hello,
Wearing a fedora.
like
Yeah.
yeah, wearing a fucking fedora, something that stands out against the golden sands. So it kind of reminds me of that, to
Yeah.
be totally honest, of like, oh yeah,
But yeah, like I've
that
walked in
fucking
front of a guy, stood
that
there
German
and watched his
Shepherd
meter go up.
totally fucking saw me in the
Yeah.
dark, but he chose to keep moving on.
Yeah. Well,
You
I've
know?
I've stood in front of someone and watched his meter go up to like 80, 90%, and I hide behind
Yeah.
move back behind that, and he's like, huh, I guess it's gone now. I'm like
It's such an interesting mix. Like I said,
Yeah.
whether they're conscious of not of, oh yeah, it is like the movies, but also like it's a video game ass video game.
Right.
You
I
know,
don't
the
remember.
classic.
Was there a difficulty setting?
Yes.
Okay. And
Yeah.
maybe on the
It did
harder
the
settings that
it
ramps up.
it did the and I've heard that too on the difficulty settings. There's like a just want to experience the story light combat mode.
Right.
There's a classic or adventure or whatever. I think I
Mhm.
don't know what it's called. It's been a couple weeks since I played. That's like the basic mode, and then there's a harder mode, and then there's like a true archaeologist mode or something like that. That's
Mm,
like
right. Where there's no hints, no
low health
waypoints.
and
Yeah.
yeah. So I don't know. It's interesting. Like the different foods and stuff, and like you have your your stamina and your health buffs,
Mhm.
which is interesting mechanic. Um, I've heard a lot of people say that the journal being the interface for the game menu is a nice touch. Though, as a longtime gamer, I'd say it's like, well, there's been a lot of games that've done
Right. Right.
journals as stuff, so it's
Not
not
groundbreaking
exactly
by any means.
it's not groundbreaking
Yeah.
for an Indiana Jones game. But I think the thing, other than the fact that it is first person, is that it doesn't, and someone who's played a lot of it, it doesn't feel like Uncharted. It doesn't feel like Tomb Raider.
Mhm.
It feels
Like
like
Indy.
Indiana Jones. And that's like the best. Like that's what you want in Indiana Jones. And it's so interesting because, one could argue there are a lot of things that Indiana Jones, quote unquote, like pulled from in other video games. It's like, okay, well, there's kind of a whip grapple hook mechanic in Uncharted
Mhm.
that's vaguely Indiana Jones's. It's like, okay, there's a shit ton of puzzles in Tomb Raider,
Mhm.
you know, but it's like it's such a cliche to say, especially in 2024 and 2025, but it's like they understood the assignment.
Right.
Like you're doing Indiana Jones being Indiana Jones, not Indiana Jones in a Tomb Raider or an Uncharted skin,
Right.
which
Or the other
is
way
great.
around, Tomb Raider with Indiana Jones instead of Lara Croft.
Right. Exactly. And I think it's well, I haven't gotten able. I was not able to play as much video games as I wanted for my traditional Christmas to New Year's break.
Mhm.
Because today's actually my last day off. And then I'm doing stuff tomorrow, and I'm going back to full work on Monday. Uh, didn't I did not fucking touch Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I still need to fucking finish it. It's gross how close I am to the end, and I've not finished it. I started because I got it after Christmas. I started Sonic Cross Shadow Generations. So I finished the Sonic Generations part of it, which, pun intended, came quickly since it is just a remaster of the 2011 game. And I got like 3 or 4 missions into the X Shadow component, which is the actual new stuff of that. Few things as a longtime Sonic person. Number one, playing it on Series X, which it doesn't crash on, at least on my system. Runs great, runs flawlessly. Definitely the best looking version, although even the 2011 version is a really fucking clean, well running version of Sonic. This has been said by everybody everywhere, but I'll comment on it, especially as a longtime Sonic person who played the shit out of 2011 Sonic Generations. So they redid all the dialogue for this game, which is simultaneously both great but weird and jarring if you played the original. So it's largely the same voice actors, but like there's different dialogue. So I have this like Mandela effect thing going on in my head of like expecting a line to be one way and then it's not,
Right.
because it's like a totally different line. And it's interesting because some lines are better and it seems odd. And even though it's a Sonic video game, like lip syncing is not a thing you're paying attention to. But there are definitely some scenes where I'm just like, they did not reanimate those mouths at all. There's a little bit of that Chinese film dub thing going on with the new audio.
Right.
That's weird. But yeah, it's great, plays great, runs great. One huge thing, which is considerably a huge thing, especially since this game came out in 2011. So they added the ability to add the drop dash move to Sonic, which is a new move that came about in Sonic Mania in 2019, 18, whenever that game came out.
Okay.
It's a move that did not, it's basically in the 2D Sonic games where you jump up and you hold the jump, you spin in the air, and then as soon as you hit the ground, you get a boost.
Okay.
So it's a way to perpetually keep you moving. It was a brilliant add to the 2D games that came about in the newest 2D iteration, the one that nailed it and everybody loved. So it's interesting that they back-ported it to this much older game that's also 3D. And it's weird because it's simultaneously great and bad. So for those who don't know, Sonic Generations, you have one stage as modern or the boost era Sonic, so 3D boosting, and then the second stage you're playing as classic Sonic, so 2D in a
Side scroll,
3D graphics, but it's 2D on purpose to replicate side scroll. 2D Sonic, because that's the way the move was designed and intended for, works fantastic. It's great. No problems there. 3D Sonic, so I don't know whose idea it was. So there's been some changes in Sonic in 3D time since 2011. The biggest one being Sonic Frontiers, which finally allowed you to separate his moves and allowed you the most control over Sonic ever. In my opinion, the best controlling 3D Sonic game, period, hands down. So this is back in 2011 now. So your controls for Sonic were jumping. You get your lock on. You press A again to do your lock on attack. You have a B when you're on the ground to slide, or if you're in the air to slam down. And then you have right trigger to boost. And then on some 3D portions, you have left trigger to what's the word I'm looking for? Oh god, a drift like a race car.
Okay.
And then some sections you have left bumper and right bumper, but they appear on screen, so it's not really a thing. So in this remastered version. So your A is your jump and your lock on, and holding it is your drop dash. So that doesn't quite work
Right.
when the core mechanic is like you're running, your stage is out from underneath your feet, and you have like 3 enemies, and you need to homing attack to get across a gap. And you are pressing A, but then you're like pressing it too much, so then you hold it, so then instead of homing, you just drop right down into a chasm and kill yourself. And I'm like, that's
Can we
that's
remap
a
that, please?
bad
Yeah.
that's a bad call. So to fully state, you 100% can remap that.
Good.
However, I did not play that way. I played as intended from the way the game was made, and died many
Yeah.
needless deaths that frankly pissed me off.
You think that somewhere in game testing they would have been like, maybe not the same button.
I think the logic was because they have quote unquote simple Sonic controls, that they were trying to keep it simple.
Yeah, but simple Sonic controls is not 3 different iterations of the same type of button press, right?
Yeah. And then another thing that's difficult to see in 3D, it's very obvious in the 2D version, but in 3D, so to put it in perspective, both the 2D stages and then like the going back to like the Sonic Mania where this move came about, you could jump forward and then you could flip your stick left, and then you'd obviously see your character face the other way, and then drop dash. So you could be going forward, jumping, move, and then drop dash the other way really quickly. That's really easy to see in both the Mania and the regular 2D stages. Real hard to see in the 3D version.
Right.
And there might also maybe possibly be some input
Latency
issues with which direction you're facing when you're jumping and you're trying to move backwards to try to do that. Because there were several times where I'd be jumping and I'd be like, oh, I drop dash to get speed here because I need to make up some time or something. And I would go the other fucking direction. And I'm like, hey, wait, no, that's not what I wanted. So there's definitely some issues. There's some issues there. But then moving on to Sonic X generation or Shadow X generations, which is the actual new portion of the thing, and is very fucking obvious when you do. Basically, you boot up the game and you have a click left for Sonic generation, click right for Shadow generations, and it's very very obvious that they're using the newest version of the engine, because clearly they just kind of cleaned up the one from 2011. Looks great, runs great. But clearly, the Shadow one is using some variant of the Frontiers engine, which doesn't look bad. It looks great, but the like jumping straight from Sonic generations to Shadow generations, there's a
learning curve.
There's about a 15-year change in how the controls feel.
Right.
They're the same buttons as Sonic generations, not all the same moves because he has a different move set. And they gave him some new ones in this game.
Same 2 buttons, though?
Well, he doesn't have the drop dash.
Oh, okay.
But yes,
we're going to do all of
largely
this and give you the same only 2 buttons to do everything with.
Yeah. I mean, the first things that stand out to me are it's like, oh, wow, the graphics are way better than Sonic generations, even though there's nothing wrong with those graphics. But 2011. It's like, oh, like you get into this one, it's like, oh, the lighting, the detail, okay, that's weird. Super weird for a Sonic game. Why in the fuck is high quality image at 30 frames a second the default for a Sonic game? No, sir. It felt weird like 3 seconds into actually playing the game. It's like, no, we need
not right
60.
here.
We need 60 for this kind of game.
Yeah.
I also toggled back and forth, which thankfully didn't require like a restart like some games do. I literally saw no visual difference usually you can tell like quality versus fidelity. Like I cannot tell.
Maybe
Pretty
you
good
could
about
if
that
it was
stuff.
an S or something like that.
Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe, but chances are you don't even have that toggle on an S.
Sure.
At least that's my understanding. So they gave Shadow some new moves, which well, there's like two things about it. The moves make total sense for the character given his power set,
Mhm.
but B, he's never had these moves before in the games, so it's very strange to me. One of them is like a slow down time mechanic, which is like, okay, that makes sense. Sure, why not? And then I guess there's also some more moves to unlock. So I'm only a couple stages in that one. I played 2 stages, and then I played the bonus, which had to pay for, crossover into the Sonic movie universe one, where Keanu Reeves is actually voicing Shadow in the video game. And I've seen the movie, the Sonic Hedgehog 3 movie twice now.
Right. I still haven't seen it.
And it's weird in the video game. It's weird because the way that it happens is there's just basically just like off to the side, there's like a special, like one of the movie Sonic rings, portal rings or whatever.
Okay.
And you just like jump into it. And then you pop out and you're in Shibuya, Tokyo, with Gun chasing Shadow. And it's the movie Shadow model, and it's Keanu's voice. But the Shadow is the Shadow from like the game you were just playing. So it's that game with Shadow's voice, and he's like not understanding why he's there and stuff. So it's like, oh, that's a little weird. Why not just do whatever?
Right.
So that's a little weird. And then the other thing that kind of sucks is like definitely Keanu's voice is like, but
More John Wickian.
no, it's just like Keanu's voice recorded on an hour on a Sunday,
Right.
on the last of his to-do list kind of thing.
Phoned it in.
Which sucks because he does such an amazing performance in the movie. Like he fucking crushes it in the movie. And here it's just kind of like, eh. And I'm like, Other thing, stage is 3.5 minutes long. It's $10. No. Okay, I get it. You're paying for Keanu. I get it.
Right.
Like, yeah. So, I don't know. It is what it is on that one. I haven't played the rest of Shadow yet, although it's interesting. The only other thing I can say about the game that I played is, so Sonic Generations, you have like a 2D stage select overworld thing, which works really well for it. In Shadow Generations, you have a 3D overworld thing, which is interesting. It's also kind of weird. So in Generations, basically the whole crux of the whole game is that time and multidimensional shit, fucking bonkers shit, and like there's all these, you're in like this white nexus landscape, and you're like beating stages and restoring color to the world. And it's the same thing in Shadow Generations, except like it's 3D, so it's like, okay, you can like look around and like move forward, and it's not super clear where like the white ambiguous world ends. So like don't boost around in 3D because you'll die in the stage select part of the game. I was like, oh, what's over here? Can I just infinitely run in the white space? And suddenly it turns into water and you drown, and you're like, wait, what? Okay, they could have handled that better. Like, I get it. They don't want you to go there, and water is the enemy of all hedgehogs in Sonic games. I get it. But it's jarring because you're just like, you just look into like an open, like just white nothingness with maybe something that's kind of vague in the distance. And you're like
being in the Matrix construct.
Yes. exactly like the Matrix contracts. Thank you. That's a good way of putting it. Keanu Reeves, pun intended, I
Right.
assume. Yeah, but then suddenly there's water. And you're just like, what? Okay, I guess I can't go in that direction. You know, like I hate when games do that. Like they could have easily just like invisible wall would
Right.
have maybe worked better and like, okay, I can't go that way or something. Or literally anything else. Like they're like, nope, death for you.
Right. By
It's like,
water
okay,
of all
well,
things.
I don't know
Yeah.
what I can explore and not explore. Thanks, guys. So yeah, that's what I've got about that. See what else have I been playing?
Well,
Uh,
I've been getting into the classics. I rolled credits on both Portals.
Ooh, had you played those before?
I have, and it's been a
Okay.
while. But yeah, so I rolled credits on them in the span of basically a week.
That's about right, because one you can beat in a day,
And it took me like
3
2.
hours.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah, which is fine. Some of those last puzzles are like, damn, they're hard.
Mhm.
And it's a little jarring when you get outside of the test chambers at the
Right.
end. Because you're like not familiar. I was familiar, but I played Half-Life games, so I was like, okay, I got this. Yeah. So which is the superior game, Nate? 2025 Fork fam wants to know your
Well,
your dividing opinion.
With the optimizations done on both of them,
That's true. They're ray
Portal
traced as fuck now, aren't they?
Portal 2 is so fucking beautiful now.
I bet.
And as far as just sheer volume of story, 2's got more of it.
Obviously.
And it's funny. It's like I'm playing the game and I'm going, why do all of these voices sound so familiar?
Yeah.
And then I go and look up the IMDb and it's like, oh yeah, J.K. Simmons. Oh yeah, what's his name? I can't even think of
Stephen Merchant.
Stephen Merchant. Yeah, and I'm like, yeah, those are them.
Yep.
But yeah, I know. Obviously I'm going to say 2's the better of them because you actually escape.
Agreed.
I like,
Agreed.
but again, I love the way that just from the get go it progresses, and it's like, Wheatley telling you, it's like, oh yeah, Gladys got killed by this, and then she
Potato
wakes
Gladys.
up. No, like when you first run into Gladys, like, yeah, she got killed by this thing, and she wakes up and she goes, oh, it's you again. He's like, wait, what?
Yeah, I think the thing that I love about Portal, besides it being just like a great all-time game,
Right?
I love that it's genuinely one of the funniest video games.
Mm-hmm.
Like
It's snark funny.
The humor,
Yeah.
the humor is so on point, especially in 2.
Mm-hmm.
Like my favorite part, spoiler for a fucking 15-year-old game, guys, is when fuck, what's his name? What's the Stephen Merchant character's name?
Wheatley.
Yeah, Wheatley. I love when Wheatley like gets into the Gladys Control Center thing, and like everything's going like crazy, and he's like, "This is the part where I kill you," and then you don't die, obviously, and he's
Right.
like, "I don't hear any sounds of screams.
Uh-huh.
You live down there." Like I love that.
Oh,
part
right.
so
Those are the
much.
busted drones. Yeah, or the busted turrets.
Yeah, like
Like, and it's a callback to a mechanic you did a while back that was
I know, so good.
optional, right?
Yeah, I love that. It's so good. Bonus points because I subjectively, I guess is the correct word. I subjectively think the co-op campaign,
Mm-hmm.
which was DLC at the time. Have you played that?
Mm-hmm. And
I think that's
of
it's
Portal
funnier.
2. Yeah, of Portal 2, it was the only one I played. We got Portal 2, and my wife and I co-op through it. And I actually had never played the single player campaign.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's crazy. That's crazy, Nate.
Mhm.
But props to you on the co-op campaign because I think the co-op campaign is subjectively funnier.
Mhm.
Like I love like GLaDOS taking pot shots at like calling one of you fat,
Right. Atlas and
like
Peabody, yeah.
and the that finale joke I thought was absolutely hysterical. Like the whole reason you're doing all of that stuff was because of the birds in the nest and she's freaked out about it.
Mhm.
Like that, I was like, oh my God, of course it's this.
Right.
Like that's hilarious.
And then the callback to in the single player campaign, it's like, oh yeah, I was working on the uh, robot testing to replace you before you killed me,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And
So
then you
good.
play the co-op, and it's like, oh, there they are.
Yeah. It's so good. Like it's
Yeah,
great. Yeah.
and it was one of
Just
those
all
like
time great.
it happened to be because the Steam family sharing. Oh my god, hands down, I love it. Um, I shared with my brother-in-law, and he just, gets a hair up his ass or gets a game code from someone and downloads and puts so his Steam library is pretty extensive. And I remember I was just scrolling through. I'm like, Portal. I haven't played Portal in forever, and I loaded it up and I beat it in 2 days. And I'm like, huh, I need more of that. Portal 2, and it was $6.
So there's a fan campaign for Portal 2. I
Mhm.
don't remember what it's called, but it's like a quote unquote one of those fan things that's been blessed by Valve.
Right.
That's a prequel to the Johnson era Portal laboratories, and it's fantastic.
Nice.
Like it's voice acted and everything. It is really, really, really good. Like if you wanted like a nice fan, quote unquote, sanctioned
I will have to find it.
prequel.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it's called. I'm sorry. It's been
I'm
a long
sure
time.
I could if I look up the Portal Wikipedia, it'll probably be in there somewhere.
Yeah, it's really good because it goes over the Johnson era. So he's like basically the main voice.
Right.
You're doing like all the
Dave
testing.
Johnson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're doing all the testing. It's not J.K. Simmons, but it's a guy who sounds kind of like him.
Right.
So there's that, and they have like their own, like they introduce their own mechanic to the game that's different from the portals and the goos and stuff.
Mhm.
And it's great. It's really, really quite
Nice.
good.
I'll have to find that because like that scratched an itch I didn't realize was itchy.
Yeah, I mean, there's the only thing that's even remotely close to portals, just because it has actual fucking portals in it,
Mhm.
is the Splitgate game.
Right.
And that's just straight up Halo with portals.
Right.
Literally.
It's not the same.
Yeah.
You know?
It's not quite the same thing.
It's akin to
quite good.
the third game that I've been playing. We talked about it in pre-show. Was downloaded and installed the Unreal Tournament 99 Game of the Year edition.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, you're saying fans updated it for modern hardware.
Yeah, and again,
Okay.
it was given the blessing by Epic. They're like, "Yep, you are allowed to do this, and you're allowed to link it to archive.org. Everyone is okay with this. We're done with it. We're not touching it anymore. Have fun."
Yeah.
So yeah, to have that
Yeah,
brought up to modern graphics, modern input device, playing it at 4K.
Oh my god.
And have it be
Did they
crisp. Now,
did they change the textures at all?
no, I mean, but they update. They're smoother, but
Did
they're
like
still
AI them or
no,
somebody or
not at
something?
all. It just look like they've been upscaled. Like they look original,
Okay.
but like anti-aliased to hell. Where
Oh, so like when you play N64 games on Switch, like emulated, but all like the anisotropic filtering.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is the fucking 48 kilobyte texture.
right,
But it's crisp as fuck.
right, but it's even the
Yeah.
updated, like from archive.org. You actually download the two ISOs, the installer
Okay.
and then the high res patch.
Okay.
So yeah, it's already got those updated textures, and then from oldunreal.com, you download the 469E patch, and you just lay it on there. I wish it had an installer for that. It's just you just copy paste into the game folder. Like the old days, yeah.
Back when patching was easy.
Right. But yeah, I loaded it up and I was like, oh, okay, it immediately did not play well with my 3 monitors. So I had like half of it on one screen, half of it on a third screen. Like it put right in the middle of my three monitors.
Yeah.
And I had to like blindly navigate out to exit it. And the next time I launched it, it launched on the wrong monitor.
Sure.
Finally got it over
Well,
to my.
they would have had to have added like widescreen support and stuff too. Then,
They
huh?
did, yeah. That's in that
Okay.
patch, and then all
Okay.
the way up to 4K and DX11 official support, Vulkan support,
Okay.
um,
But a lot of
and
people are getting away from Vulkan, by the way.
right, but it's still there for people that have those weird in between legacy cards or like it's basically the patch is like
Yeah.
if you have a device, we can play on it.
Sweet.
But yeah, that original UI in 4K, it doesn't scale. So I'm
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. I understand. I understand
It
completely.
was hard enough at 1900 by 1080.
Man, 1900 by 1080. Them's big words. I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure I played on a probably a
1164,
8
768.
800 900 monitor
Yeah,
on Mac.
800 by 600. Yeah,
No, I had a weird one. It was a tube, but it was kind of widescreen.
gotcha.
So I'm pretty sure it was a 8 by 900
Yeah.
is weird resolution.
But yeah, no, loaded it up, went through the tutorial on that one, and man, like that brings back some member berries like nobody's
So
business.
as someone who's played every Unreal tournament and championship in
Mhm.
existence, that's me. What is your favorite gun?
When I get back to being good at it, the shot cannon.
The shock on it. So electric bolts tases people.
No.
And then there's like a beam.
It's
I'm trying to-
the beam rifle. It does a beam or an orb, and the
Okay.
orb goes out slow,
Yeah,
and you can
the orb.
shoot the orb. And
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
was clutch with that thing. I'd get people like, "Oh, I'm going to hide around this corner," and I'd just throw the orb out there and watch them splatter because it was always
gotcha.
a 1-shot or 2-shot kill with that thing. You know,
My favorite gun, hands down, all Unreal tournaments.
oh, it's flat cannon.
Yep.
Yeah,
100%.
I
Flat
totally
cannon,
get it.
shotgun grenade launcher, get the
Yeah.
fuck out of here. Hell yeah. And I loved that the flak bounced.
Yes.
Physics wise.
Yep.
So you could
Again.
angle that shit, and sometimes
You're like,
sometimes
hi, I'm
you
going to
get it-
sneak around that corner, and you're like, okay.
Yeah. So good. So good.
Yep.
Love it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
the
love it.
variety of the guns in that. And it's like I'm like, oh yeah, the goop gun. Like boom. And the
Well, and wasn't that good because you had to have like a ton of aim skill with it, but the what's this? I don't remember the names. The saw blade launcher.
yeah,
Yeah. Super fun. Not great.
right. But
not great to use,
risk
but in a pinch.
the risk reward on it, it's like the goop gun. It's like if you were really good at it, you were hard to because you could like area denial with that thing.
Yeah.
So.
Favorite map.
I'm still going through them all.
Okay.
Whatever the one that's like a pirate ship.
Pirate ship one. God, I don't remember that one.
Right. But
The
it's
one-
got a
the
bunch
one
of
that-
lifts and like catwalks and whatnot.
Okay. My favorite one, and I'm probably getting the name wrong, but I think it was called Facing Two Worlds or something.
Oh, the CTF map. Yeah.
Yeah, the CTF
Yes.
map.
Yeah, I
with
haven't
the two
played-
worlds. They had a lava one in the original, and then they moved it to space in the sequels.
Yes.
And
That
map.
The penultimate, like perfect capture the
Chefs.
flag map.
Yes.
Because it's like, oh, you
Yep.
have a line of sight, like
Mhm.
so you can snipe on it, but the runner on the ground can get to a point because there's that little arc in the middle of the map that once you hit that
Yep.
halfway point, you've got deflection until you're almost in your
Yeah.
base.
And I can't remember which one, whether it was the lava one or the space one, but one of them had tunnels in the center.
It'd be
So
the
if you
lava
could run
one.
to the middle and
Or
then
no.
get to the tunnels, then you could tunnel your way up to the front door. Air quotes.
I'm not sure. But yeah, I haven't played any
remember lava
CTF
in
on it yet.
space.
Yeah.
That's what I remember. I don't remember. The one that was always weird for me, I know a lot of people disliked Unreal Championship.
Mhm.
Because the first one was the first person shooter, and the second one was third person.
Right. Like
Which
Quake did the
was
same.
not-
Quake Arena did the same
Yeah,
thing, and it
Quake
was
did
like
the same thing.
I never liked those type of games in third person. But I guess teach their own.
True. I mean, I haven't played it, but Halo Infinite got their third person thing this year or last year. So yeah. What was I gonna say?
Halo
The thing that
Championship.
always was Unreal Tournament Championship.
Yeah.
The one that was always weird to me was I think it was 2003, Unreal Tournament 2003, that had the big maps with the weird vehicles.
Yeah.
Like, I liked the idea behind it, and they were definitely trying to capture the vehicle magic from Halo, because one was like the Warthog, but with like scissor blades on the front, and then there was like a floaty vehicle that was clearly trying to be the Ghost.
Right.
And then there was a tank and like all that sort of stuff. Like, it was an interesting idea. I just don't think it worked for Unreal Tournament.
Right.
Because it took away from it's a deathmatch CTF capture point type of game.
Yeah, and like again, 99 Game of the Year edition, like got that pacing perfect.
Yeah, for sure. So I played a bunch of Death Stranding on my phone, which is still a remarkable. It's just remarkable that game exists and is 100% there and looks 100% good. Playing on a Switch controller in a Les Schwab for 6 hours. A very weird place to be playing, but it happened. Played a lot of Marvel Snap. Been playing a lot of Nikke, got us a victory. Recently, over Christmas, my PlayStation boys got into the Pokemon trading card game Pocket app. So I've been playing that. And so for those who are not old like myself, it's a Pokemon trading card game, but it's a bite-sized version. And so what I mean by that, because I'm old, is there have been 3 disastrous Pokemon trading card video games on mobile devices. I'm not talking about the Game Boy Color game. That was actually good. It's one on the original iPad that I had to borrow my mom's iPad to play because it wasn't on iPhone, and I think it was on PC at the time. It's terrible, awful, but it was what it was, and we played it till it died. Then there was a second one that tried to be better, and it was actually worse somehow. And I guess 2 years ago, there was a Pokemon trading card game live, and people seemed to like that one. But I didn't give it the time of day because I was like, nope, you guys have failed me so many times. I'm not even giving you my time of day. And that's what I'd said about this one, too. But then...
But the boys were playing it.
Inevitably, peer pressure.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, fine. It's free to play. And so this one's actually made by Nintendo and Dina. So collaboration there, using the terrible Cryware engine thing, but runs great on mobile, so whatever. Has a very Pokemon Go-like interface.
Okay.
And gives you free booster packs every 12 hours. And I'm like, interesting.
So what's the catch? How are they making their money?
So far, only if you want to give them money.
Okay.
It's super, and much like Marvel Snap, it is a super, super generous and fair free-to-play Pokemon trading card game. And the reason it's called Pokemon Trading Card Game Pocket is because it is a quicker variant of the Pokemon Trading Card game played on mobile. And so for those who've played that game, I don't know, have you ever played that card game? So the original version, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, because it's been, I don't know, 20 fucking years for me. Okay. So the original version of that game was collaboration between Nintendo and Wizards of the Coast. it basically used the Magic the Gathering formula,
Sure.
like basically like a easier version of that. You had Pokemon cards. There was energy that you had to draw from your deck, not unlike mana.
Mhm.
I believe, unless I'm wrong, I believe the decks were 60 cards. And then you had to have the elemental type of energy to match with your Pokemon before they could do moves. And you could have one Pokemon out fighting, and then there's like 5 or 6 on a bench ready to be deployed or swapped out. And I believe it was first to 6. So Pokemon trading card game Pocket on mobile for free is 20 card decks. There is no energy cards. However, there's an energy spawn that comes up with 1 energy per turn and is based on what you put into your deck. And it's first to 3. You have a bench of 3, 4? You have a bench of 4. So first to 3. Games are 15 to 30 minutes a pop. So this is not a 3 to 5 minute experience like Marvel Snap.
Right.
But everything's clean. The interface is nice. It runs well. The only thing that I can find to yell about it as far as a poor design choice is there's definitely a lot of like card pack opening animations and you got to sit through them. And there's a speed up thing, but it is the slowest speed up button I've ever seen on the planet in the history of speed up things. And there needs to be a 2x speed button
Or
100,000%.
or skip animation, right?
Yes. Or just a toggle for sure. And it has online battles. I've been battling with my friends. It doesn't have trading, but trading is supposed to come this year. It launched in November, so it's very new, very fresh. They have 2 quote unquote expansion decks that it has launched with. So there's only about 425 cards in the game, which is not a ton. I've been playing 2 weeks and I already have over 200 cards and have not spent a dime.
Nice.
So it's extremely generous. And they've got just a lot of nice quality of life features that brings me back to when I was a kid, physically playing this card game in malls against other people. So there's just like collectible stuff like there's a turn coin and a play mat, card sleeves, deck boxes, all digital. And it's the game, just Pocket. And it's good. And I'm just like, well, fuck. Here's another game that I gotta log into and do dailies on and all this shit so that I can make sure I don't have FOMO, whether it's Nickies or gotchas or now a fucking digital fucking Pokemon game. So
I've only got one of those, and that's AFK Journey.
I recommend it for those who want to scratch that itch, but in a nice condensed form.
Right. In a respectful way.
Yeah, and you know how much I love this feature in games. And then when you're playing against the AI or AI challenges, which there's challenges of the week and stuff, a friendly little auto battle toggle comes up and goes, wait, I can hit a button and leave this to grind on my own just based on my deck making skills? Son of a bitch, you got me. You got me good. Which again also needs a 2x speed up, because if you're gonna let me auto battle and just let me set my fucking phone down, please, for the love of God, don't go at the regular game speed, because they still take 15 to 30 minutes.
See, AFK not only does the auto battle, they do the auto battle. They've upped it to 3 time, and now they just say, we'll just run this in the background.
Good.
Yeah.
Yes. Maybe your name told us about this. Go figure.
Right.
Anyways. Did 6 hours of Indiana Jones. Already talked about that. Unfortunately, did not get to Final Fantasy VII because I've been busy with family stuff and doing this, that, and the other thing. And then the big game that I just spent literally all fucking day yesterday playing, and then a little bit Thursday night, which just launched on PlayStation, although it's been out since September on PC and mobile, is I am way back into the gacha game Wuthering Waves.
Okay.
And I now have a very good handle on the whole game. And I've been playing, well, I played the beginning on PlayStation 5 because I hadn't played it since September. And those who maybe recall me talking about it on the podcast then I was like, oh, so this is a Genshin Impact clone, like absolute fucking shameless clone that has its interface looks fucking identical to Genshin Impact or Honkai Star Rail, which have similar interfaces. It's a gacha game, but it's doing almost everything better than Genshin Impact. It has a way more involved combat system, which at the time I said, oh, I can see there's a lot of depth in this combat system.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have controller support. These touchscreen controls are not doing it for this game. And then I set it down. I said, okay, you come back to me when you've got controller support and you're on a platform that I can actually play on. Well, lo and behold, that day is here. And my lovely Christmas gift from my wife, amongst many cool ones, actually, I got myself a backbone for my high-powered iPhone 16 Pro Max. And I've heard so many mixed things about backbone. Some people love them, some people hate them. I absolutely fucking love my backbone.
Sure. I think
I love it.
We had that conversation, I believe, offline, where
yes,
a buddy of mine had one, and
yeah, you didn't like the sticks, which are in my opinion identical to Joy-Con Switch sticks in terms of their size, in terms of their range of movement, which Nate finds lacking.
Right. Which I have the equal hatred towards Joy-Con joysticks, so it's not like inconsistent.
That's fine. Yeah, and I'm totally fine with Joy-Con joysticks.
Right. But so, yeah, I mean, as a device, it's solid. Like it does make playing on a mobile device more of a console-like experience.
Yeah, I'd say it makes it a ton more console experience. So, as I've maybe been saying, especially since I got my 16 Pro, I've been playing these big console games. But I don't have like one of those like phone holder things that goes over a controller to I can like have my controller take a shit and be playing. Yeah. I have one of those, but it's for A, way older, smaller iPhones, and B, it's for a PS4 controller.
Right. Like way smaller. Like I cannot get my fold in this thing. And it drives me nuts. And I tried the backbone that my buddy got because I was like, this could be a make or break thing. And because they put the USB port on the wrong side, because it doesn't matter for any other phone that's equidistant, foldables, it sticks out like Jay Leno's chin.
Wow, that's a good joke. I mean, I think the thing is, Nate, not to poo-poo your situation, it's that you have a foldable.
Yeah.
And I feel like, and I'm more than welcome to look at data that says that I'm wrong, people who game like you or I game are probably not playing on a foldable.
I would actually push back and say people that buy foldables are the ones that are more likely to game on their phones, which is why they got the bigger screen.
Maybe. Like I said, I don't have the data to support one.
Neither do I. But that was one of the reasons I wanted to get the foldable, so I could do my Xbox Live on a appreciable size screen without having to carry a tablet on me everywhere.
Yeah. So I got a backbone. I got the 3rd generation backbone. USB-C, so the iPhone 15 version of the backbone specifically, which I think also had a firmware update for the 16.
With the PlayStation controls, I'm assuming.
No. So I got the black one
Oh,
with the PlayStation case, which is the way I had requested it on my Christmas list.
gotcha.
And a lot of people are like, well, but why? White goes with iPhone. I was like,
Because the
yeah,
ABXY is more universal for most games.
that is true
Yep.
for me, especially. And B, especially having gamed a lot on Switch. And I have a Switch OLED that has the white controllers
Mhm.
on it. And I don't mind it on the Switch. And it looks great when it's in the dock. But I prefer not seeing, if I have my screen and my controls right next to each other, I want to not be paying attention to them when I'm gaming. I want to
Right.
be focused on the game, and I prefer black for that. In addition to that, as you can see, even though I have a titanium iPhone, my case is very dark.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very dark. So there's that going for it as well.
Yeah, my buddy didn't know. He got it on a Black Friday sale for like $60, but it was only the PlayStation variant. He's like, "Oh, I got this," and I'm like, "Yeah, it works good." I said, "Like other than the PlayStation buttons." He goes, "Oh, there's a difference." I said, "Yes, yes, yes, there is, and you're gonna find things on screen prompts that are gonna be ABXY, and just know that." And I showed him the controls, ABXY. The X is not the X on the PlayStation.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he's getting used to it.
Yeah. So a little bit about the backbone. Now that I've spent maybe 60 hours
Mhm.
on it, because I played it a shitload on Christmas. Like I straight up like brought that thing over Christmas and was playing it while we were doing other stuff and whatnot. Um, I'm mad at myself for waiting so long,
Mhm.
but also I am glad I waited so long so that I have like a very powerful phone. Because had I got the Lightning version, which would have meant a less powerful iPhone, it was probably a lesser experience. And I know they've made tweaks and stuff to the overall hardware and buttons and stuff.
But you
So I
wouldn't have
want to
been
address a
able to
lot.
use it on the new phone.
Exactly. So I want to address a lot of complaints that people have had about it that I've seen. I've researched the shit out of this thing for years because I'd been eyeing one but wasn't sure
Same.
about pulling the trigger. And my brother-in-law actually has the PlayStation Lightning version.
Mhm.
And I messed around with it for like an hour. And his kind of thing was like, yeah, it's okay, but it's not as good as my PlayStation Portal. And I was like, so you're just using this for streaming? Like that's it? He's like, yeah. And I was like, okay, well, that's not what I would use it for, but okay. So I think the sticks are great.
Mhm.
They have a much deeper, firmer click that feels like an Xbox controller.
Mhm.
I love the D-pad on this. And I'm real picky about my D-pads.
Okay.
There have been D-pads that suck, D-pads that stuff. I like that it is simultaneously a softer D-pad that kind of reminds me of the Xbox controller S on the original Xbox
Mhm.
and the late life cycle Xbox 360 D-pad. It feels somewhere in between those, but having the build quality specifically of the D-pad of something that feels like a Nintendo or a PlayStation D-pad.
Sure.
And it's interesting because it's like it feels like its own thing. Like its texture
Mhm.
is different from other D-pads that I've played, and I've obviously played a lot of D-pads. Love the D-pad. Feels fantastic. The shoulder buttons
Little shallow,
are
but clicky.
they're shallow, but I find them to be much firmer. I find them to be like a cross between the shoulder buttons on the Switch Joy-Cons and
Mhm.
actually like a PS4 or a PS5 shoulder button,
Mhm.
which like they have a click, but they have more of a button feel to them. Now the triggers, which I've heard a lot of people complain about, and
They
from
are
what I
polarizing.
remember,
Yeah.
and from what I remember playing with the PlayStation Lightning version of my brother-in-law's like a year ago, I remember them feeling like weird and flimsy. And the thing about them is at first blush, they feel light and flimsy and like maybe they're not going to do their job. Certainly when you pull them all the way in, there's basically no noise. You're like,
Right.
well, how are these working exactly? And I'm not sure the technology specifically behind it, but I played a bunch of racers on it, and I can attest that I feel like it's the right happy medium between
Yes.
like a full big trigger and like the Joy-Con triggers, which are not triggery. They're
Right.
like a single button, as you know. And they definitely have pull on them. Like I was using them. I won like 6 races in Horizon Chase 2 just the other day on the can. And I was like, yeah, no, this feels great for a fucking racer. And feels great for shooting and stuff. And I was like, I got no problems with these triggers. I don't
Yes.
know why I blanked there.
I think some of the problem with that again goes to the game developer itself,
Yeah,
right? You got to know
sure.
that you got to adjust for input, and if you don't do
Yeah,
it,
well,
like
and
Call of Duty Mobile specifically, because I've been playing that with my buddy, has a PlayStation 5 setting, an Xbox setting, and specifically a backbone setting, so they know and
I
took
know
an
it has I know it has a backbone setting because
right.
it's literally so the box for my backbone, I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah.
It's backbone, and the literal thing on the phone in the center is Call of Duty Mobile Warzone.
Yeah.
Support.
Yep.
It's literally on the fucking box.
So Call of Duty specifically took into account the mechanics of a backbone. So it is a
Yes.
very solid experience where
Yeah.
if you just say
And
input A is a trigger, you may not your mileage may vary from game to game.
yeah, and it's interesting. So I've played a bunch of games on my backbone with my iPhone, and depending on the game, most certainly the mileage may vary. Death Stranding, Perfect, Horizon Zero Chase, or Horizon, not Zero Chase, that's a different game. Horizon Chase 2, Perfect.
Right. Which that should be
So
because you need a
ver-
throttle.
very weirdly, so Sonic Mania is available on mobile through Netflix for some reason. Whatever, I don't know. When I first booted it up, it was laggy, but also the sound on Sonic Mania was glitchy, and I went, "What?" Like it sounded like a 5.1 mix being shoved through a single speaker from the 70s. And I was like, what the fuck? And I thought it was maybe like interference because the backbone is hardwired.
Mhm.
There is no batteries in it. It is a hardwired connection. I thought it was weird. It played weird. Like I tried playing, but the sound was weird. I was like, what the fuck is going on? Deleted it, reinstalled. Everything was fine. I was like, oh, the file got corrupted. Okay, I got you. It was fine after that. Honkai Star Rail, perfect. Resident Evil games, perfect. Assassin's Creed Origin,
Not so good.
50-50. I say 50-50 because for some reason, and I don't know if this is a known error, I have to imagine it maybe is, sometimes will not initialize with the controller.
Okay.
And very oddly, sometimes rebooting helps, like the app. Sometimes unplugging the controller and plugging it back in helps.
Mhm.
And sometimes on both of those, it doesn't. Have no explanation as to what's up with that shenanigans. Yeah. And then specifically Wuthering Waves, which I played almost all day yesterday, at least half of that with the backbone. So Wuthering Waves, technically, per public things, does not support the backbone controller. And when you plug it in
Right.
and you choose switch control mode, nothing. However, Reddit, thanks Reddit, if you Bluetooth a supported controller, which per their support doc for the game only supports Xbox and PlayStation 5 controllers, if you Bluetooth either one of those, connect your backbone, disconnect the controller, away you go on the backbone. So it's like, what? What? It's so weird.
Yeah.
Why? Because clearly the support is there. It's fucking bizarre. And to make matters further worse, like yes, when you connect, you only have the PlayStation button icons for some reason. But more importantly, like it plays flawlessly. on the Backbone. Like, it's a treat to play on the Backbone. So I'm just like, why? What is the holdup on the support for this thing? Because it's, I don't know. I don't know. I love the Backbone.
Mhm.
I would say if you have a high-powered iPhone and you game like I do, uh, fucking go for it. It is a toilet dream device. It is a in the car dream device. I'm going
It
to be
is
going on a
a
flight
it is
and
a
a long
packet in
car
your lunch
rides.
bag device. It's
Yep.
pocketable. Like, again, while it's like, if I could have gotten it for $60, I would have bought one, hands down. $100, it's because of my little gripes with it, is just a little bit out of my, I don't like $100 for that device. I liked it at 60.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I mean, I think the thing for me is I love it. The buttons have the right squish to click
yeah,
ratio on the face buttons. I have not. It does have a pass-through charging
yep,
USB-C port and
headphones.
a headphone jack. I've not tried the headphone jack,
It works.
mostly because I have AirPod
Yeah.
Pros. I will say though, there's a weird caveat with the pass-through charging. Super weird. Had to go onto Backbone forums and Reddit and stuff to figure this out because it's not stated in the manual. If you want just, I don't know why it is. It must be a hardware thing. If you have your Backbone in your phone already and you plug in your USB, you will only get minimal, keep you at the battery level charging. If you want it to charge your phone while also playing, you have to put your USB-C into the controller first, then your phone. Have no rhyme or reason why it is that way, but that's the way that it is. Sweet. Backbone. I dig it. My other caveat to it is, so the Backbone has a Backbone button on it.
Mm-hmm.
Little orange button, also has a glowing light when you plug it in to let you know that it's paired with your device, which is nice. That it's got a physical, shows you that it's doing its thing. Because there was a time where I plugged it, or I thought I plugged it in, and I didn't quite get the seating correctly, and I thought it was working and it wasn't. I went, oh, and then I fuggled with it, and then it lit up, and I went, oh, okay, there we go. So it has a Backbone app that you download separately, and there's a couple of things about this app that are weird. Number one, it seems like it's a really good app. It has like this beautiful console-like interface for displaying your games. Doesn't display all your games, which is weird. But it does something where it like looks at your apps and says, hey, here are the apps that we 100% know works with Backbone.
Right.
And it's like, okay, that's cool. That's a nice feature. But if I want to play something like Sonic Mania on Netflix, it's not there. And there's a button that says, hey, add your app here. You can just add it. It doesn't work. Doesn't work at all. In fact,
Add your
I've
game
hit that
here.
button.
No, you cannot. Yeah.
I've hit that. So I've hit that button, and I kid you not, it'll launch a different app. So like I've hit like add Sonic Mania Netflix. What does it do? Starts up Sonic Dream Team on Apple Arcade. And I'm like, oh, hold on now. That's not what I pressed. Stop that. Very weird. It has, apparently, in the Backbone app, it has a 30-second, 5-minute screen recording feature. And it has throughput to Twitch streaming through device, which I was like, oh, okay, that's actually a nice thing. I've not tried.
If you want to kill your battery, definitely.
Yeah, sure. I like that it's there. I like that that's a feature of like, it's a nice bonus with the device. I also like that you can take screenshots with the device, because as someone who takes screenshots of my phone games often, and take a lot of screenshots anyway, because I'm a crazy person who takes 100,000 screenshots of every fucking video game and loads them into my photo library, organized by game, by platform in my iCloud. I like that. What's weird is that function of the thing. So it says in the app, I don't know why, it says it loads it into this library in the app for the video. That video recording thing doesn't seem to work for me. Okay, weird. Again, haven't tried the Twitch thing. Maybe I will. Screenshots is supposed to load in the app, doesn't, but loads into my photos library on my phone instead, which I think is better personally. But it shows like a blank JPEG icon in the app, and then like you click it, nothing happens, and I'm like, well, what the fuck is the point of the app? Excuse me. So that's weird. And then further weird, I'm subscribed to it because I have a free 30-day trial, but there's also like a Backbone Plus subscription.
Right. There is the upsell.
Which, okay, fine. But it's not clear what features I will have or not have once the subscription expires. I'll find out January 25th when my subscription expires. I'm not clear. So we'll see. There may be more to say about the device after that.
And I don't know how useful it is other than... And
Well,
again, I don't know if it's locked behind the paywall or not, but you can remap the buttons or, you know, change the performance curves on them outside if the game doesn't. Right. But I think that might be locked behind a paywall, which is dumb.
I don't know. I'll find out more in 25 days. I hope it doesn't stop working.
Right.
Because I think it's expensive. It's like $30 a month.
Which is also dumb.
It's not cheap.
Right. There is...
And I'm like,
but when you're charging more if you're charging more than a game subscription service is charging you for a month, you better be doing some shit. Like, you better be bundling in pack-in games. You better have your own online storefront with discounts and shit like that. Because I don't know what you're giving me for $30 a month, even in the best case scenario.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. But I love my Backbone.
Yes.
One final caveat. It does have magnetic rubber attachments for changing phone sizes in between the thing. I think, maybe because I have the newest phone, I had to do some custom fuckery for my iPhone 16 Pro Max, who I guess camera's bump is much larger than the 15 Pro Max. So,
well, you know, if they would have put the damn USB port on the other side, it wouldn't have been a problem. Now, would it? Because your camera bump would be above the controller.
Yeah. However, from a logical standpoint, the USB being on the right, so forcing your camera to be low, the CPU sits at the top when it's in the horizontal view. So from a thermal perspective, that makes more sense. But anyway, I'm nitpicking and justifying. So to get mine to fit with my case, I have to use the large bumper on the USB-C and then no bumper on the left. And it fits just great. So
it's just weird shenanigree. Yeah.
Yep. Backbone, USB-C, fully compliant with iPhone, Android, Apple Arcade, Xbox Game Pass,
Steam Link,
Windows Gaming, Steam Link, and Luna's on the box. Because why not? Yeah, it's a good time. Good time. Wuthering Waves. I'm super into it right now. I have things to say about it. One, my account linking did not go as planned on the PlayStation to mobile version. I'm waiting on a support ticket from them because basically I was able to redo the tutorial on PlayStation, and there's a button when you log in to switch accounts that auto logs you in before you can press any button. And I've tried multiple ways. I've reinstalled the app. Cannot get past the auto login thing. Thanks for that. In their defense, it launched on PlayStation 2 days ago.
Right.
So it has not previously been available on that platform before now. Cool, fine, whatever. Went to playing it on my iPhone with a mix between the Backbone controller, using a PlayStation controller because I already had one paired with my phone, and doing the whole Aliens Isolation beam it to my TV thing, which is fucking remarkably flawless.
Right.
Such a wild, it's what I've been expecting for technology to get to, where it's like, oh yeah, I can just use my iPhone and it can be my primary gaming rig on my TV. What a world we live in. As Nate gets up from his chair and makes some noise in the back. What is he doing? We don't know.
The wife turned on the heater. It's getting
Oh.
uncomfortably warm in here, so I'm opening a window.
Is it fucking cold in California?
By whose standards?
Californian standards.
Yes.
Well, how cold is it down there?
62.
Oh, wah.
Yeah.
Oh, wah. You poor baby. How will you ever live? Oh, no.
Oh, sorry. It's 66.
Oh, ooh.
I don't know why
It's
the heater's on.
It's 48 over here,
Yeah.
which is pretty warm for this time of year. But
She said it.
so Wuthering Waves, to wrap up here. It is a Genshin Impact clone in its interface. It's also a gacha game. Its open world is similar to Genshin Impact, which itself is similar to Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, which also apes stuff from Ubisoft open world games and every other open world game. It's a Chinese developer. It's mobile. It's cross-platform. All those things. However, what it does better, infinitely, than Genshin Impact, and I actually went back to Genshin Impact for a bit just to compare, and interfaces are shockingly similar. Like, we're talking same fucking font, same locations on the HUD. Like, it's like, oh damn, just absolutely fucking
copied the
shameless.
homework. Yeah.
However, where it diverges, so gameplay loop. So it's a combat game, much like Genshin Impact, where you also swap between 3 characters at any time with a D-pad with some combos. Genshin Impact has a jump, has a main attack, has a heavy attack, has a super. That's it.
Cool.
That's it. Wuthering Waves has all of that plus light heavy attacks, plus dodges, plus parrying, plus aerials, plus movement, plus a Zelda / Elden Ring type lock on, plus
and you're supposed to play this with a touch interface?
Plus timing with a tag team interface with combos, ultimates, fucking, and that's just when you start.
Right.
That's like in the tutorial. And it's awesome. Like, it feels fantastic. Sure. It feels like a console game. And you're right. That's a lot of buttons on the touchscreen if you're trying to play it that way. Not a good experience. Do they work? Sure. But it's the same thing as me trying to play Death Stranding on touchscreen only on my iPhone. Does it work? All the controls there? Absolutely. Should you do it that way? Probably not. Probably not. And so it really heavily diverges in the combat because the combat is like fucking dope and good and fun. Whereas Genshin Impacts, I was very bored with when I was playing that religiously. So if you want a better combat experience that has a Genshin Impact type thing going for it, Wuthering Waves has it beat hands fucking down with its hands tied behind its back, basically.
Right.
Further, where it diverges, and I didn't even know this about Wuthering Waves until I got into it, it has like a Pokemon Persona-ish component to it that makes exploring the worlds not just a joy, but addicting as fuck. So any of the enemies that you come across, there's an RNG chance that they turn into like a little like, I don't know what the in-game term they're using for like little fucking ghost of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then two things happen. So this game, like how you level up your characters and stuff is fucking identical to every fucking gacha game, Honkai Star Rail, Genshin Impact.
Right.
You have stuff, you have an ascendancy thing, you have a star rating, whole 9 yards, you have to do 10 things to get a pole. All of that stuff's the same, which is pretty standard fare these days. What's not standard is like, okay, so you have your weapon upgrade. It's like, but you don't have like blue, white, gold boots, and then putting points into that. Instead, what you have is an arrangement of the villains and monsters you've collected, and you have a slot. You have 6 slots, and putting monsters in gives you different buffs, benefits, tweaks to your skills.
Interesting.
And the top slot one you get as a summonable ability from that enemy. And that's everything from, oh, hey, you killed a plant that throws down a thing that does a healing aura.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, summon that plant. He'll throw you a healing aura. Oh, you killed a named character boss. Hey, do you want to turn into him and ride around on his awesome motorbike that spits flames everywhere and crush enemies while rolling across the open world? We gotcha. And it's like, oh shit, that's cool as fuck.
Right.
So it creates this component of every time you get to a new area, it's like, ooh, that critter's 5 levels higher than me.
Right.
Oh, I'm gonna fucking kill him and wear his ass like a hat.
Yep.
So it creates this really, really fucking addictive loop, as testament by the fact that I literally could not put it down. Like I had intended yesterday to play Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And yes, I haven't played it in several months, so I'm definitely off the bandwagon.
When you can play
and need
this.
to get onto it. But then I was just like, oh man, it feels like the combat is so fun and so good, and the core combat loop is delicious. Like it's so delicious. So like every time, like I'm just like, ooh, what is that critter? What will it give me? I must kill it. But there's the RNG component, so it's like, you kill it. Oh, he didn't drop his like spirit or whatever the fuck it is that you need from him. Well, let me go do some quests and come back, and maybe I'll find it again, or I'll come back when they respawn in the area. And that's just really good and really sets it apart from that stuff. Further setting it apart from Genshin Impact, it is much more of a post-apocalyptic sci-fi bent of Genshin Impact. I would dare say a little Honkai Star Rail-y. Something's happening. Nate's nodding. And he's shaking his head. And his mouth is going very loudly. So he's either talking profusely to his wife, or he's telling his daughter off. So his eye line seems to be going up. So I'm going to guess it's Mama Fu.
Yeah, it's Mama Fu. Wondering if we are close to being done.
Yeah, we are. I'm probably going to end after this, and we'll have just done gaming. I guess. But we kind of figured that might happen because there's been too much time,
right?
That has elapsed. So yeah, core gameplay loop, amazing on Wuthering Waves. It's a much darker, slightly post-apocalyptic sci-fi thing, so it's less fantasy than Genshin Impact. A little more Honkai Star Rail in that regard. And there's cool stuff in the art that's just like, ooh, that's neat in an open world. Like there's like a forest where the rain goes up instead of down. And then there'll be like clouds in the distance that has like a city falling out of it. Or there'll be like, I don't know, a black hole sun over a city or something. So it has an interesting bent in that regard. It has a wonderful soundtrack. But my niggles with the game are there's a story. I don't know what's going on in the story, but I also don't care because the gameplay is so fucking good.
Right.
And then did I mention that in addition to the open world exploration, and there's still like a climbing stamina meter thing, and it's ripped straight from Zelda and Genshin Impact, but they don't gate you from like, oh, you need more stamina to climb to the top of that mountain, which is what Genshin Impact does.
Right.
They're like, yeah, that's cool and all, but would you rather parkour up the mountain and like run along the wall like a ninja? That's cool too. Also, you want a laser grappling hook? How about one of those? You know? So it has this wonderful traversal mechanic as well. So it makes the open world much, much better.
Right.
But where it fails is there is a story. I think it's presented well, but I'm also not sure what's happening. And I also don't care because the gameplay is better. In addition to that, there is a lot of voice acting, but it's
Lacking.
50%. You're going to get a good voice performance, and 50% you're just like, is that an Irish person trying to do an American accent and failing badly? What accent is that person? What is going on
Right.
here with this? And then there's just like just a bunch of other little quality of life things that obviously the Hoyoverse games have nailed,
Mhm.
that this has not. However, the gameplay is amazing, and gameplay is king. But we spent the entire fucking episode talking about video games. We kind of figured it was going to happen. Nate Fu has given us the what would the card be in soccer? The yellow card, the red card.
Yellow card is your warning. Red card, you're
She's
ejected.
given us the yellow card. So we're gonna wrap things up here anyway, since we already started a little late. Thanks, alarm that didn't go off.
Right. Maybe we'll pick up next week and do a different category.
Yeah, maybe. But not to leave our audience without one last little thing about why I've been gone for so long. In addition to the fact that characteristically we do less shows during the holiday time anyway because of time and stuff. But the long and short of it is, and I've joked about this in the past, but it is actually true now. So my father is dying, and I've been making trips over to Spokane to deal with that. In addition to, I don't remember if I've talked about this in the podcast or not. In addition to the fact that one of my best friends, his girlfriend, killed herself,
Mhm.
still dealing with that. And then to add insult to injury, my grandma on Christmas Eve had we thought it was a stroke at first.
It's a grandma seizure.
She had a grand mal seizure. Yeah, I see what joke you're trying to make there. It's not funny, Nate.
It's funny.
Grandma's doing better. She's actually released yesterday. My friend is doing better with the whole thing. And my father is most assuredly still dying. Like that is the train track that he is on.
Right.
But he's
stubborn and
back
he's going on
home.
his own terms.
Yes, but he's back home and living whatever life there is left to live. He was given about 6 months to live. The long and short of that story is basically a lot of stuff happened, like a lot of stuff. Nate knows these things because I kept him in the loop. But his heart's at about, or was at about 10%, beginning of December. And that's basically all there is left of that thing. And at his age, he can't get a replacement or anything. Can't be really done about it. So that's what's going on with that. Very, very, very strong chance that probably, if that timeline holds in June or whatever, we'll be talking about the passing of my father.
Mm-hmm.
And the last 2 months have been extremely, extremely stressful. And I've probably added about 20 years, I feel, with everything that's been going on and the franticness. And should we end up on life in the next episode, I suppose I'll talk about it. Because I actually wasn't sure. I was like 50-50 on if I was going to talk about it publicly or not.
And that may change by the time we get around to it. So.
Yeah, that may change. And then the other thing is we may or may not do a regular show next because I will be helping Daniel move from Virginia to Washington State. I'm flying over there on the 15th, and we're going to be driving back. And we driving on a Saturday for sure. So not sure what will happen there. Either we'll record something in the car, and I'll try to get Nate to somehow post it, or I don't know, fucking. I've got good cellular service. I don't know which state I'll be in, but might do a fucking Skype call from the road and have Nate edit something. I don't know. I don't know what will happen. We'll see. Basically,
Now I can put phone calls right into the board. So
yeah, there you go. Exactly, and it wouldn't be the first time you've edited either. Although it might be the first time you'll need to post, because I don't think. Well, maybe.
Worst case scenario, I'll have all the files for you to hit upload on Monday.
Yeah, except I won't be back by Monday.
Or whatever, whenever you get back.
We're looking at it like a Wednesday to Wednesday kind of thing.
Right.
So we'll see. But yeah, that's what's up. We had a decent jab at video gaming. A little bit of catch up here. I'm obviously still alive. Nate's still alive. And welcome back to Forking Your Ear Podcast. I just can't guarantee consistent episodes moving forward.
Good.
Because I don't know, but we're going to try. We're going to try. So without any further ado, and me talking too much as usual, I'm Tim K. Trotter, signing off.
Get forked.
Thank you for listening to a Dynamicworks production podcast. You can find our podcast at www.dynamicworksproductions.com. Feel free to email us at dynamicworks@mac.com.
Armado, the voice of Guybrush Threepwood, and you're listening to a Dynamicworks production podcast.
The Citadel, Arrival, is the first installment in a series of epic science fiction short stories reminiscent of the Pulp Fiction style. It's a fast-paced story that will take you through twists and turns that you will not expect, until they are thrust upon you with all the force, excitement, and chaos of a plasma cannon blast. The story follows Katarl, a nobody cog in the working wheels of a futuristic society run completely by Megacorp, a corporation that carefully runs and manages the lives of the people living under its sphere of power. On one of Katarl's few and far between days off from work, an outing he had hoped would be fun and relaxing turns into an explosive adventure that drags him kicking and screaming into situations and challenges that will make him question every aspect of his life. Watch this colorful tapestry unfurl as Katarl and his newfound allies find their way through this classic, yet oddly surprising tale of good and evil, where nothing is quite what it appears to be. That's The Citadel, Arrival, by author Tim K. Trotter, available right now on Amazon Kindle Store and iTunes iBookstore for only $2.99.
Yeah, I'm going to do that as well.
Cool.
Okay. There's one I don't want to hear. That's right. Okay. Skype is recording. Call recorder is recording.
Flux capacitor is flexing.
Mini fridge kicked on, but you said you don't hear that now. Turn it off regardless. Of course, the mini fridge has no fucking response on Wi-Fi. Okay.
Oh, why?
What? What something stupid is it doing?
Windows Explorer is not responding.
That's equivalent of Finder, is it not?
Correct.
Boy.
Okay.
Do a quick rebooty.
I literally just turned it on, so
I'm
hoping.
But internet says you need to blow into the cartridge slot and do a reboot.
Oh, am I getting choppy?
There's a dip in your audio quality. Yeah,
Is that better now that I'm actually talking into the mic?
there's a little bit of fuzz that wasn't there when we started. I would just do a quick reboot, dude. I know you hate it. I know you don't want to do it, but if Windows was giving you shit, then might as well do what you can.
Do you remember back in the day when that would take forever to do exactly what I just did?
Yes.
Yeah.
Technology. Time marches on. All right. Everything's rolling over here.
They see me rolling, they casting.
About to go into a different song there, but that's okay. I can hold back.
No, by all means.
No.
Grace me with your vocal tones.
No, that's not gonna happen. Okay. Let's go throw these in.
Are you waiting on me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Chowing down on the bagel. I mean, hell. Again, not streaming, don't care. We can.
I'm a very slow eater.
Oh, good. I'm not rushing you, dude. We're not on a clock, you know? Like, we can't get any later than a month. You know?
Did we do one? I don't know when we did one last, to be totally honest.
Where is Podphone?
I'm opening up the podcast app right now.
I'm gonna say, I can just look at my. Oh, of course someone's gonna take a fucking shower right now.
Last one we did was is that the last one we did?
Right.
Yeah, last one we did was Fight Night.
Was before Thanksgiving?
Yep.
Yep.
Jesus.
Yep.
It feels like it's been 3 months, but it's really only been like a month and a half.
Well, yeah. I get it. I miss you too.
Why did the mini fridge just kick back on? I told you. All right.
Hi. Are you wearing clothes? No. What do you need? Naked baby. Oh no. Yep, we can see you. There we go.
Haven't even started rolling yet, and Nate's trying to get me canceled.
Okay. You also need to be quiet, sweetheart. That means the iPad needs. Go get some clothes on while you're at it. Please.
A poncho, for Christ's sake.
Right? Love her.
Mini moo moo.
She's got to be in the room with me. Adorable.
I don't know.
Clothes? Clothes.
What does she mean you can't get her now?
Trouble is in here with me. Wife. The outtakes are going to be phenomenal.
Oh, that's okay.
She army crawls out of my room. Yep.
She thinks it's funny.
Don't close the door with your mouth. Oh.
What?
She had her hand full of iPads, so on the door. We have lever style door
Knobs?
handles.
Oh, levers. Okay.
So yeah,
That makes actually more sense than knobs.
yeah.
Okay.
If my 7-year-old daughter could fit a doorknob in her mouth, we have issues.
Yeah. All right.
And 3,
2,
1.
1.
Cut in.
Cut in.